Part 106. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1051. Lu Ligan and Tan Shahan came back. There was no place to sit here, so they just stood and chatted. After Lao Wan finished working here, they went to have dinner together. After eating, they returned to Hangzhou. You guys go ahead. I'll finish my work here and just eat something with them. Lao Wan pointed to his fellow villagers and said to Lu Ligan. How can that be done? It's too shabby for the general manager to take office, Lu Ligan said. I want to eat anything, shabby or not. You can go and eat it yourself. You go, there's no place to sit here, Lao Wan said. Then remember, the first thing tomorrow is to buy a car, Lu Ligan said. In Shanghai, how can you live without a car? After buying the car, you can meet Jason and Jacques. They are staying in a hotel in Pudong. If you call Jason on his mobile phone, he will tell you how to get there. Lao Wan said, yes, I understand. Find another assistant immediately, preferably a local one, otherwise you will have to do everything yourself, Tan Shahan and Lao Wan said. Lao Wan still said, yes, I understand, Mr. Tan. Lu Ligan wanted to say something else, but couldn't remember it. He patted Lao Wan on the shoulder and told him, let's go and come back in a few days. Lao Wan said, okay, you go, be careful on the road. Lu Ligan and Zhang Chen left the church and walked on the road. Lu Ligan said that he felt a little sad, as if Lao Wan had been abandoned here. Zhang Chen smiled and said, it's normal. When I sent Xiaoli to Shanghai, I felt this way every time I left Shanghai. But now, such a long time has passed and Xiaoli has gone to Beijing again. Don't worry, he will have his own life circle here soon. When we went to Haikan, we were worse than him. At least he had a ready-made job waiting for him to do it. As for us, I don't even know where I'll sleep at night, Zhang Chen said, and Lu Ligan nodded. When they talked about Haikan, Tan Shahan became silent. That was not her world and she was not familiar with Haikan. The four of them walked to the parking area outside and looked at the time. It was only after 4 o'clock, which was still early for dinner. Zhang Chen said, let's go to the expressway service area to eat. I haven't eaten in the service area yet. Have you ever eaten? Lu Ligan and Tan Shahan had not eaten either, so we all agreed to go to the expressway service area to eat. When Lao Zhu called Mengping, he repeatedly emphasized not to bring anyone else. Mengping was confused. What was this mysterious thing for? Lao Zhu is the Deputy Director of the Wuxi Municipal Party History Office and the Deputy Director of the Municipal Chronicle Compilation Committee Office. He is mainly responsible for the Municipal Chronicle Compilation Committee Office. Because the Director is the Deputy Secretary of the Municipal Party Committee and does not work in the Municipal Chronicle Office, Lao Zhu, he became the actual person in charge of the Municipal Affairs Office. The Municipal Chronicle Office is a Qingshui Yamen, and the Deputy Director of the Municipal Chronicle Office also has a leisure job. In the past, there was a task from above, requiring all localities to compile local chronicles, but since the Wuxi Municipal Chronicle was compiled, they actually have no tasks. A Wuxi yearbook is compiled every year. That kind of thing is really a hodgepodge. The content of each year is basically the same as the previous year. You can just change the data in it. This kind of book, after it is printed, will basically be a furnishing in the bookcase of every leading cotter's office. No one will read it, and it is not even meaningful as a reference for decision-making. If any leading cotter relies on the yearbook to make decisions, even the daylily will be cold. In addition, they just compile some random books, as long as they have something to do with Xi. There is no task. They compile them as if they are mainly to prove that their department still exists. Some leaders even prefer you guys to touch your toes every day instead of compiling these messy books. When you compile a book, you have to submit a report to apply for funding. Every report describes the book as one that will have an impact on generations to come and make the leaders approve it. They feel sorry for the money. If they don't approve it, it will easily fall into the hands of others. It's a big hat. Saying that you don't pay attention to the cause that affects thousands of generations. Lao Tzu graduated from the history department of Fudan University and was Tan Kixiang's master's degree student. He studied history and geography. When assigned after graduation, he could have stayed in school or gone to the Ministry of Commerce, but his parents asked him to return to Wuxi. After being assigned to the Wuxi municipal government, the leader saw that he was from the Department of History, so he was assigned to the Municipal Affairs Office. Other than that, there was no other government agency that was close to the History Department. Lao Tzu went to the Municipal Affairs Bureau and has been there ever since. Lao Tzu wore a pair of black round-rimmed glasses. Meng Ping once saw a photo of Chu Kaibai somewhere and thought that Lao Tzu looked very much like him. Chu Kaibai. The temperament is similar too. Lao Tzu seemed very satisfied that he looked like Chu Kaibai, so sometimes when Meng Ping called him Zhu Kaibai, he was happy to call him Zhu Kaibai. Unexpectedly, after the name spread, it turned into Zhu Kaibai, which made Lao Tzu very troubled. But when Meng Ping saw him and called him Zhu Kaibai, he was still very happy. Meng Ping used to work in the work unit. When he had nothing to do, he would often go to the city government office, because it was not a serious work unit. Once there, he could not be serious, put his feet on the table and talk nonsense, and there was no one to hide his words. Will care what you say. The Municipal Affairs Bureau is located in the corner of the first floor of the government building. Don't worry, even if the leader drinks too much at noon and takes the wrong way to the bathroom, he will not come to the Municipal Affairs Bureau. They can brag without fear. In addition, in the Municipal Chronicle office, many of the people who were temporarily transferred from various units in the early years to compile the Wuxi Municipal Chronicle were the writers of each unit. When the writer left, the unit hired another writer, and a unit, you can't use so many pens. After these people compiled Wuxi City Chronicle, they found that they could not go back. The pit they had been in had been occupied by a new carrot. Therefore, everyone's mood and face were gloomy, and they even made small reports. I have no enthusiasm at all. I can't see anyone for 3 or 4 days in a week. In the entire unit, the person with the highest attendance rate is Lao Tzu. Sometimes when Lao Tzu was sitting there, he heard the phone in the opposite office ringing for a long time but no one answered it. Lao Tzu walked over and answered the phone and realized that none of the 4 people in the office came today, and Lao Tzu didn't bother to bother. I won't ask even if I ask. Lao Tzu often told Meng Ping that history is driven by big people, and small people like us can just go with the flow. After all, Lao Tzu is a disciple of a famous professor from a famous university. He is very knowledgeable. This is why Meng Ping likes to brag with him. He feels that there is always something coming out of his mouth that is very inspiring. Although Lao Tzu himself never felt it. Lao Tzu came to Nanjing and stayed at the Jinling Hotel. Lao Tzu called Meng Ping and told him, "Lao Meng, come over. I have important things to discuss with you and I have important people to introduce you to. Remember. Stay here, Lao Meng, come alone and don't tell anyone about this." "What are you doing, Lao Tzu?" Meng Ping arrived at room 809 of the Jinling Hotel and rang the doorbell. The sound of coming came from the door, and Meng Ping recognized it was Lao Tzu. The door then opened, and Lao Tzu appeared in the door. When he saw Meng Ping, he pulled him in. At the same time, he stretched his head and looked at the corridors on both sides to make sure there was no one, then he went back and closed the door. Meng Ping walked into the room. It was a standard room. There was another person in the room. When he saw Meng Ping enter, he stood up from the sofa. This man was in his mid-30s, had his hair parted, and was wearing a black zipper jacket and a white shirt underneath. He had a Chinese character and a handsome face. Meng Ping could tell from his attire and demeanor that he was well dressed. This should be someone working in a large organization. When the visitor saw Meng Ping, he stretched out his hand and said to him, "Are you Comrade Meng Ping?" Meng Ping nodded, and the other party said, "My surname is Cha Yugang." Seeing that Meng Ping didn't seem to understand, he added, "Do you know Jin Yang's name?" "Cha Yang Yang, I am Cha." "Oh, I understand, let's investigate," Meng Ping said. "That's right," the other party also smiled, "that's the word." The other party asked Meng Ping to sit down, and Meng Ping sat down on one of the two sofas by the window. The other party sat down on the other, and Lao Zhu sat on the bed opposite them. Zha Yugang told Meng Ping, "Your birthday is July 21st, 1963, right?" Meng Ping is right. "I'm 1 year older than you, can I call you Xiao Meng?" Meng Ping smiled and said, "Just call me Lao Meng. Others call me Lao Meng and Xiao Meng." "I thought you were calling others." "Okay, then call me Lao Meng. You can also call me Lao Cha." He is Lao Zhu. When Lao Cha said this, he said with a serious smile, "From now on, there will be no Comrade Meng Ping. Although we will continue to, as long as this continues, we will always be gay." Meng Ping didn't know what the other party meant by saying this. The other party smiled. He took out a document bag from the briefcase on the side. Before opening it, he said to Meng Ping, "Old Meng, what I am showing you now, I hope you can forget it after watching it, understand?" Meng Ping nodded. Lao Cha opened the white wax rope wrapped around the document bag in circles, then opened the seal of the document bag, took out a thin page of paper from it, and handed it to Meng Ping. Meng Ping took it and took a look and was shocked. He saw that it was a document jointly signed by Office Z and Office G. The word "Top Secret" was printed on the upper left corner of the document, with two big red seals stamped below. Meng Ping had seen top secret documents a few years ago. When the number 1 document on rural work for 3 consecutive years was issued 20 days in advance of the media release, its confidentiality level was top secret. In addition, Meng Pingzai had no chance to see him, and his level was not high enough. The content of the document is very simple. The title is Decision on the Establishment of a Working Group on the Unfreezing of National Assets. The following content is very routine. In order to promote the unfreezing of national assets, work and benefit the country and the people, etc., etc., we have decided to set up a working group on unfreezing of national assets and appointed Zha Yugang as the team leader. The group members will be led by Zha Yugang. Yugang is responsible for inspecting the development and reporting to Office Z and Office G for approval and filing, etc. At the bottom is the signature and official seal. "Have you finished reading?" Lao Cha asked. Meng Ping nodded and said, "I've finished reading." Lao Zha stretched out his hand, and Meng Ping returned the document to him. He put the document back into the document bag, wrapped the white wax rope around it, and put the document bag back into his briefcase. He then took out his work ID and showed it to Meng Ping. Meng Ping saw that it was the work ID of the Z office secretariat. Then he took out his ID card and showed it to Meng Ping. Meng Ping saw that on his ID card, it was indeed the Czech Yugang, a native of Yunfu, Guangdong, was born on May 5, 1962. Lao Cha took back the documents and ID cards and asked Meng Ping again, "Lao Meng, can you forget what you have seen now?" Meng Ping smiled and said, "I can't forget it, but I can pretend I've never seen it before." Lao Cha also laughed, "That's fine. Thank you Enfbloside for your monthly pass. Thanks for all the reading and votes. Have a good night everyone." The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei-Shi Niang. Chapter 1052. Meng Ping had a good impression of Lao Cha, not because he came from the Z office and had a strong background, but because he felt that this man's behavior was very suitable for him. He was polite but not self-reliant, humble but a little arrogant. Lao Cha asked Meng Ping, "Have you ever heard of national assets?" Meng Ping said no. Lao Cha was a little surprised and said, "Lao Meng, you haven't even heard of this. It seems that your contact with society is not extensive. Regarding national assets, there has been a lot of discussion since 85-86. It's a scam." Meng Ping smiled and said, "I have never dealt with this kind of people." Lao Cha also smiled, "You have dealt with it today, or I am just one of many scams, nothing special." Meng Ping said, "Okay, then I'll see how you lied to me. True is true, false is false, false is true, true is false, false is true, that's fine." Lao Cha seemed to be saying to Meng Ping, or to himself. "What's going on with this national asset?" Meng Ping said. "Let me tell you first, what kind of scams are there about national assets now?" Lao Cha said. Meng Ping said, "Yes, I will learn a lot. Those who talk about the tombs of Emperor Qin Shi Huang and Emperor Wu of Han are all nonsense and not worth talking about. These are only suitable for deceiving the old ladies in the vegetable market." Lao Jia said, "It is quite serious. Lao Tzu knows that there is also a certain historical source. There are mainly these. The most widely spread one is of course Zhangxian Zong's Shenyin. It should be said that the sinking of silver at the mouth of Zhangxianzhong is true. There are many historical records of the Ming and Qing dynasties. The most reliable one is records of the disaster in Shu written by Yang Hongji, who followed Zhangxianzhong. It is said that Zhangxianzhong brought thousands of ships of gold, silver, and jewelry from going south along the river from Chengdu. There were too many gold and silver jewels for the wooden boat to carry, so Zhangxianzhong ordered the craftsmen to make many wooden troughs, put the gold and silver jewels in them, and let them drift down, intending to salvage them in the narrow section of the river. Come up. But unexpectedly, they were raided by Yang Zhan, a bureaucrat in western Sichuan, near Jiangkou town, Pengshan district, Maishan city, Sichuan, and most of the thousands of ships of gold, silver and jewelry sank into the river. Later, these gold and silver jewels were indeed found sporadically along the river in that area. During the Republic of China, Sichuan warlord Lu Xiang once organized a salvage operation, but it was unsuccessful. In recent years, the local government and the State Administration of Cultural Heritage have also conducted salvage operations. This is the plan to excavate. Lao Tzu nodded at the side and said to Meng Ping, "Zhangxianzong's sinking of silver is recorded in the rogue Zhangxianzong's harm on Shu written by Yu Zhongliang, the official of the Jianchang Guard in the southern Ming dynasty, and in Shu Bai written by Peng Zunzi of the Qing dynasty. Of course the most reliable one is records of the Sichuan disaster written by Yang Hongji that Lao Jia said. After all, it was written by someone who experienced it, and the time and place are correct." Meng Ping nodded, and Lao Cha said, "The second one is Wang Mang's gold. In 8 AD, Wang Mang, a relative of the Western Han dynasty, usurped the throne and proclaimed himself emperor, and changed the name of the country to Xian. When Wang Mang was in power, he began to implement the so-called currency reform. On the one hand, he imitated the Zhou system to mint coins, and on the other hand, he used harsh means to confiscate a large amount of gold circulating among the people, trying to maintain the value of what we later commonly called Wang Mang's coins. By the end of Wang Mang's reign, the amount of gold collected in the imperial treasury had already exceeded it reaches more than 60 ku. This is a very large amount of gold. 1 kilogram was the measurement unit of 10,000 kilograms at that time. When converted, the total amount of gold is equivalent to more than 170 tons today. In February of 23 AD, the Green Forest Army proclaimed Lu Xian, a descendant of the Han dynasty, as emperor, announced the restoration of the Han dynasty, and named it Zhengxi. In March of the same year, the rebel army defeated Wang Mang's main force in the Battle of Kunyang and defeated Wang Mang's main force in one fell swoop. On the first day of October, they took advantage of the situation to attack Chang'an. The dignitaries in Chang'an city rushed to flee. At the same time, there was a mutiny in the city. Many citizens gathered outside Wang Mang's palace, set fire to it and attacked the palace gate. Wang Mang saw that the situation was not good, and led hundreds of officials to flee to Jiantai, where they were uprising. Legions surrounded him. The two sides first exchanged bows and arrows, and then engaged in hand-to-hand combat. The officials and soldiers guarding Wang Mang died in battle. Wang Mang himself was also killed by Du Wu, a rebel soldier who was a businessman. The school captain beheaded Wang Mang and hung it in Wan City. Dozens of soldiers scrambled to cut Wang Mang's body apart. The common people heard that Wang Mang's head was in Wan City, and they collectively attacked him or cut off his tongue. Wang Mang and his new dynasty only lasted for more than 10 years before perishing. However, this dynasty left historians with an eternal mystery, that is, what was stored in the treasury of the new dynasty and what was looted from the people. More than 170 tons of gold disappeared in subsequent historical records. If the gold in the treasury was divided up by the rebels, there must have been many witnesses at that time. Even if it was divided, it would be impossible for such a large amount of gold to not appear on the market, and it would be impossible for the information to be kept secret. However, there is no record of this in the Book of Han and other historical materials, and gold is not seen in the market transactions of the Eastern Han Dynasty and later court rewards. China has also entered an era of gold shortage and can only rely on copper and iron to make up for the lack of precious metal currency. A relatively reasonable explanation for Wang Mang's gold is that the gold of the new dynasty had been secretly moved to a hidden place before the fall of Chang'an. More than 170 tons of gold, although it sounds like a lot, is not large in volume. It can be hidden in a secret room, cave, or basement of about 10 square meters. If the gold is hidden, people who know about it happen to he and Wang Mang died in the rebellion, so this gold may indeed be isolated from the world and may be discovered at any time. Meng Ping smiled and said, "It seems that it is really possible that something like Raiders of the Lost Ark will happen." Yes, Lao Cha said, "The weird stories may be made up, but things cannot disappear out of thin air. They do still exist somewhere, but they have not been discovered, so it is also a scam of these treasure hunts. It can beget a reason for people to believe." "What else is there?" Meng Ping became interested and asked, "What else is there about this disappearing wealth?" Lao Cha smiled and said, "You use the word well, disappeared wealth. They are indeed disappearing wealth. Perhaps, they are prepared for a prosperous age. As the saying goes, when the saint comes out, the yellow river becomes clear, and the yellow river becomes clear. It's not that there is no time to clear up, it's just that there are no saints yet. It's not that this disappeared wealth will never reappear, it's just that the time has not come yet." "What, Lao Mang, do you still want to hear it?" "Yes, I think it's very interesting," Meng Ping said. "There are also those so-called peasant uprising leaders like Zhang Xianzhong. What is the ideal of the peasants? They are the local landlords. Don't listen to the nonsense in the books. No peasant uprising leader's ideal has ever been to save the peasants. Liu Bang and Zhu Yuanzhang, the peasant uprisings were all successful. Would the peasants have had a better life in the Han Dynasty and the Ming Dynasty? The ideal of peasants is to be a local landlord, and the ideal of these peasant uprising leaders is to be a big landlord, and the biggest landlord is the emperor. There are also several disappeared fortunes related to several peasant uprising leaders. One is Huang Chao. Huang Chao revolted. He led his rebel army to cover most of the Chinese territory of the Tang Dynasty, many of which were prosperous places. Everywhere he went, it could be said that he robbed all the local gold and silver treasures. He also captured Guangzhou, the largest overseas trade city in the Tang Dynasty, and looted it as well. Among them, tens of thousands of merchants who came to Guangzhou to do business were killed. He finally entered Chang'an and proclaimed himself emperor. Later, he was driven out of Chang'an by the Tang army. The treasures he looted along the way disappeared without a trace after Huang Chao's defeat. The second one is Li Zikan. In March of the 17th year of Chongzhen, the Dashun army led by Li Zikan conquered Beijing. Zhu Yijian, Emperor Sizong of the Ming dynasty, committed suicide and hanged himself in Meishan. After taking control of Beijing, Li Ziqin began to extort gold and silver from the officials of the previous dynasty in the city in the name of salary assistance. He stipulated that the central hall will be 100,000 yuan, the ministries and imperial robes will be 70,000 or 53,000, and the Dao, K, and Li departments will be 50,000 or 30,000. Hanlin has 32,000 and 10,000, and when deployed, there are thousands each. Their methods of forcing donations can be said to be all out. More than 800 officials and wealthy businessmen from the previous dynasty were sent to the military camp of Li Ziqin's general Lu Zongmin to force donations. The Dachshund army used various torture methods such as clamping sticks and cannons. Many people were tortured to death, and there are accurate records. They extorted a total of 70 million taels of silver. On April 21, 1644 Li Ziqin led his army eastward to conquer Wu Sangui. As a result, he was defeated by Wu Sangui in the Battle of Yishi. After Li Ziqin fled back to Beijing, he only had more than 30,000 men left. Knowing that he could no longer hold Beijing, he prepared to withdraw to Guangzhou. Before setting off, he ordered his men to melt the gold and silver forced to donate from officials of the previous dynasty into cakes. Each cake cost tens of thousands of gold, and transported it back to Xi'an on a mule cart. From the time he abandoned Beijing in April 1644 to the time he died on Zhigong Mountain in May 1645, Li Ziqin only spent more than a year. In such a short period of time, it was impossible for him to spend all the 70 million taels of silver on hand, and the 70 million taels of silver weighed more than 2,000 tons, and Li Ziqin, who was eager to escape, could not transport it with the army. If he wants to keep this money as much as possible, his only way is to bury most of it somewhere where others can't easily find it, and then take it back when he makes a comeback. This may be a milestone in Chinese history. The largest piece of disappeared wealth in the world should be hidden somewhere on Li Ziqin's escape from Beijing to Xiangyang. The final touch is the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. The troops of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom led by Hong Xiuquan, Lao Meng, you also know that wherever they go, they burn, kill, and loot as hard as Huang Chao, and even women and children are packed into the military camps. Women went to the women's camp, children went to the Boy Scouts, and all the looted property was turned over to the public treasury. After arriving in Nanjing, Hong Xiuquan's level of debauchery and the wealth he accumulated were no less than those of the emperors of the past dynasties. However, after the fall of Tianjing, this huge wealth also disappeared. At that time, some people said that this wealth was Zheng Qiuavan's younger brother Zheng Qiuaquan was smuggled back to Hunan, but this statement is very suspicious. Firstly, it is unlikely that Zheng Qiuavan would condone this, and secondly, even in the Zheng family, such a large fortune did not appear later, so this is another mystery. Lao Meng, aren't these interesting? Meng Ping nodded and said, indeed, this is the first time I have heard that there really is so much wealth scattered in the wilderness. These are our national assets, and our responsibility is to find these assets, what you call lost wealth, Lao Jia said. So, this is a treasure hunt, Meng Ping said. This is not a game, this is a very serious cause. Think about it, how much contribution each piece of wealth will make to the country as long as it comes to light again, Lao Cha asked. That's right, Lao Cha, what can I do, Meng Ping said. Can I ask you to pay for it, Lao Cha asked, we need funds to search for these lost wealth. Okay, how much do you need, Meng Ping said. Lao Zhan looked at Lao Zhu, and both of them laughed. Lao Zhu said, have you seen it? I'll tell you, this guy is easy to deceive. Lao Cha laughed, indeed. Screw you, Lao Zhu brought it. Even if I know he is a liar, I will still give him the money, Meng Ping looked at Lao Zhu and cursed. Lao Cha continued to laugh and said, if I ask for money, then I am really a liar. It is one of the countless national asset scams. Remember Lao Meng, they all trick you into paying and then tell you how much you will get. Don't believe anything in return. Thank you to Dal Tin Soldier and RIRI Shushu for the reward. Thank you, guest, for your monthly pass. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1053. Lao Meng, do you know that there are some scams and rumors about national assets here, but we actually let them out? Lao Cha asked Meng Ping. Meng Ping shook his head and said he didn't know, then asked, why? True is true, false is false, false is true is false and false is true. Lao Cha repeated it again, and then said, there are more people on this road, so we can hide people's whereabouts. Lao Meng, you have to remember, from now on, we are just one of the many treasure hunters looking for the so-called national asset with the mentality of getting rich overnight. Meng Ping said yes, then which one should we look for, Lizikans or Hongxiaquans? Before Lao Cha said anything, Lao Zhu laughed. Lao Cha shook his head and told Meng Ping that these have nothing to do with us. I said that so many false news are spreading outside to cover up our true intentions. Old Meng looked at Meng Ping, and suddenly changed the subject. He said, Old Meng, why don't you ask why we want to find you? Meng Ping was stunned for a moment, and then asked, yes, why did you come to me? It should be said that we know more about you than you think. Lao Cha said, first of all, of course, it is because you have been in the agency, and your performance in all aspects should be said to be very good, up and down, right? Your feedback is very good. Many times, you know the principles and limits that must be adhered to. Those who have never been in an agency do not have this awareness and sense of proportion. Second, of course, it's because you are no longer in the agency, because no one can know that there is official involvement in this whole thing, not like Lao Zhu, but Lao Zhu can provide you with a lot of support and help you have clarified many things. If you contact Lao Zhu, no one will suspect that you are contacting the official. You are friends, right? Third, it involves people's personal charm. You must be good at dealing with people and have the ability to quickly make people trust you. This may seem simple, but it is the most difficult. Some things must be learned. You can't learn it, and in this whole thing, this is the most necessary ability. Lao Zhu introduced it to me, and I believe it now. What do you believe? Meng Ping asked. We didn't know each other before. At least from the time you came in to now, I have a very good impression of you. This is what I mean, the ability to make people trust you. This is a natural ability. It can't be trained, Lao Jia said. Meng Ping smiled and said, I also have a very good impression of you. Lao Cha was stunned for a moment and then smiled, that means we have a foundation for cooperation. Lao Jia took out a business card, handed it to Meng Ping, and said to Meng Ping, this is my current identity. Meng Ping took it and looked at it. It read, Jia Yugang, General Manager of Shenzhen Zhengui Import and Export Co., Limited. Don't worry, this company is real. There are people who answer calls and people who go to the company. There is also my office in the company. I came to you to discuss business, Mr. Meng. Lao Cha continued, remember, someone will answer this call 24 hours a day, but don't call unless it's an emergency, okay? Lao Jia said and laughed, of course, if you want to verify the authenticity, you can call one now, and they will tell you that I went to Nanjing. After Lao Jia finished speaking, he looked at his watch and said to Meng Ping, okay, lunch time is here, we should go have lunch. Meng Ping also wanted to ask what he should do specifically, but it was obvious that Lao Cha had no intention of continuing, so he had to stand up. Lao Cha told Meng Ping and Lao Zhu that after lunch, I would go back to Beijing. Lao Meng, Lao Tzu will tell you something. Meng Ping said yes. Do you need me to take you to the airport this afternoon? No need, someone will send it to you, Lao Cha said. The three of them went to the revolving restaurant on the top floor of Jinling Hotel. During the meal, no one talked about the topic of national assets. Instead, they chatted all over the world. It was obvious that Lao Cha had been to many places. He is very familiar with the customs of various places, as well as the 3 religions and 9 streams. Halfway through the meal, Lao Cha and Meng Ping said, I have to go back to the room to make an important phone call, and you two continue eating. Lao Tzu said yes, you go. Lao Cha stood up, patted Meng Ping on the shoulder, and left. After Lao Cha left, Meng Ping wanted to ask Lao Tzu about the national assets. Lao Tzu seemed to know what Meng Ping wanted to do, and shook his head. Meng Ping understood, and the two simply chatted about things in the Wuxi agency. Lao Tzu and Meng Ping said that the agency had moved to a new building. Lao Meng, guess what, our city secretary office is still in the corner of the first floor. It seems that we only deserve to be in the corner. That's not good, Meng Ping said with a smile. Let you just sit in the corner and silently work on your career that can affect generations to come. What the hell, let me tell you, many times, if the magnolia outside the window hadn't turned into an osmanthus tree, I would have thought I was still in the original office, Lao Tzu said. Then where else do you want to go? Meng Ping said, let me tell you, this unit is just like people. Its position in the organization is the same as people's position in the crowd. It is fixed. Then the petition office, it must be outside the main gate. For your municipal office, it must be in the corner of the first floor. The Agency Affairs Bureau thought of it when allocating offices. Aren't you all working hard every day? If you want peace and quiet, then I will give you a quiet place. They are so considerate. Do you still have any objections? I'm too lazy to have any opinions, Lao Tzu said. By the way, Lao Meng, it's rare for me to come to the provincial capital. Have you, the big boss, thought about how to entertain me? Lao Meng said, it's simple. How about we take a foot bath in the afternoon and take a sauna in the evening? Can you eat meat or not? Of course, you can put down your golden house today and enjoy Yan Ruyu. Haha, okay, I knew it was you, Lao Meng, who knows me best. Meng Ping looked at him and cursed, Chiu Ba is Chiu Ba. Lao Tzu chuckled, as long as you have a face like jade, Chiu Ba is nothing, the bastard is worth it, let's go quickly. Meng Ping made a gesture and asked the waiter to pay the bill. The waiter came over and told them that the 809 customer had already signed the bill. The two people left the revolving restaurant and entered the elevator. Meng Ping and Lao Tzu said, let's go and talk to Lao Cha before leaving. Lao Tzu said yes, and Meng Ping pressed the button on the 8th floor. The two people walked to 809 and saw the waiter cleaning the room inside. Meng Ping asked, where are the guests in this room? The waiter told him that he had just checked out. Meng Ping and Lao Tzu went downstairs. As soon as they walked out of the passage connecting the elevator to the lobby, they saw Lao Cha getting into an Audi car with a red license plate starting with South Sea at the gate and leaving. Lao Tzu shouted, okay, he's busy with his business, and we're going to do ours. The two of them went to the Hanfan foot bath where Meng Ping often went. When the little girl washed their feet and gave them a foot massage, they were talking about the old things in the past. When the little girl finished her service, she told them that they were let's take a rest, close the door of the box, and walk out. Meng Ping asked Lao Tzu, how do you know this Lao Cha? I was introduced by a classmate in the political research office. Beijing, from the sea. Of course, among our classmates, I am the only one who lives in a prefecture-level city. The rest are also in Shanghai, and there are also those who are on TV now. Damn it, I am too embarrassed to even attend a class reunion. Lao Tzu shouted, and Meng Ping nodded in his heart. The Political Research Office has a good background. With such a connection, it is not surprising to find Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu, do you know what's going on with this old search for me? Meng Ping asked. Didn't I tell you to look for national assets? Where to find it? Nanjing. Ah, Meng Ping was surprised. You mean, there is really such a treasure buried in Nanjing? Why is it buried in Nanjing? You need to find someone in Nanjing. Otherwise, we need to find someone like you in Nanjing to do this, Lao Tzu said. The money is abroad, but the people are in Nanjing. The money is abroad. Meng Ping was confused. Whose money will go abroad, Wang Mang's or Zhang Xianzong's? Lao Tzu burst into laughter. It has nothing to do with those things. Didn't Lao Cha say that those are smoke screens? The real money has nothing to do with those things. To be honest, when I first heard about it, I was also shocked, but after understanding the context of the whole thing and connecting them together, it makes sense. Lao Tzu became interested and sat up on the recliner. Seeing this, Meng Ping also sat up. Lao Tzu asked Meng Ping. Lao Meng, do you know Zhen He? Zhen He? Which Zhen He? Meng Ping was confused. How many Zhen He do you know? I only know Zhen He, the one who went to the western seas, Meng Ping said. Yes, Lao Meng, this money is related to Zhen He, Lao Tzu said with a smile. Here I go. Why is it related to a eunuch again? This eunuch's money has gone abroad. Now, I want to find someone in Nanjing. Lao Tzu, don't tell me that this person in Nanjing still belongs to the eunuch. Descendants, right? Is it scary? Is it interesting? Lao Tzu said, looked at the door of the box, and Meng Ping cursed. Don't be so nervous. No one is eavesdropping here. Even if you are eavesdropping, you won't understand. Call the little girl who washed your feet in front of you. Ask her about Zheng Jun, she may know. Ask her about Zhen He. She doesn't even know. Say it quickly, say it quickly. Well, this is going to be a long story. Let's talk about one person, that is Zhu Kongba. Lao Meng, do you know Zhu Kongba? Lao Tzu asked. Meng Ping said angrily, Zhu Kaiuba's younger brother? Stop asking me if I know. I didn't graduate from the history department of Fudan University. Just tell me who he is. Lao Tzu smiled and said, Lao Meng, I just like your shamelessness, and you are never willing to ask questions without shame. Well, let's not talk about it. This Zhu Kongba is Zhu Yuanzhang. Let's talk about another person, Lan Yu. Okay, Lan Yu, he was a general under Zhu Yuanzhang, and he and Fu Yude, another general under Zhu Yuanzhang. In 1384, when they were pacifying Yunnan, Lan Yu captured a very capable young eunuch, Ma Sanbao, Zhen He, from the palace of Zarawalmi, the king of Liang in the Yuan dynasty. Zhen He was 13 years old that year. After Lan Yu returned to Nanjing, she sent Zhen He to the palace and dedicated it to Zhu Yuanzhang. Zhu Yuanzhang also liked this little eunuch very much. But the next year, that is, 1385, Fu Yude and Lan Yu were transferred to guard Beiping Mansion, which is today's Beijing. Zhu Yuanzhang sent Zhen He to accompany Lan Yu. You may be wondering why the emperor would send such a general to the expedition. The eunuch is with you, right? Let's hear the explanation next time. As Lao Tzu said this, he got off the couch and walked towards the door. Meng Ping shouted, what are you doing? Shhhh, Lao Tzu said, opened the door of the box and walked out. Thank you for the tip from the third one from top to bottom, 131, on the shore. Thank you Sanran Daxia for your monthly ticket. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone. There are 2 chapters today. I need some time to review the material. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1054. Lao Tzu came back from going to the bathroom, still sitting on the recliner, and asked Meng Ping, "Lao Meng, where did you talk about earlier?" Meng Ping said, "Lan Yu, take a young eunuch Ma Sanbao to Beijing." "That's right, I'm old now, and I'll be confused when I urinate," Lao Tzu said. "Were you not confused when you saw Yan Ruyu?" "That one can't be confused." "If a man can be confused like this, he is probably not far away from death," Lao Tzu said. "Okay, let me first tell you who this Lan Yu is." "No, let's talk about Lan Yu, let's talk about Zhu Biao first." This Zhu Biao was the eldest son of Zhu Yuanzhang, and he was also established as the prince by Zhu Yuanzhang. This has been like this in all dynasties. The emperor can't control his belt. Think about it. There are so many beauties around him. How could he be able to control it? If it were me, I wouldn't be able to control it, let alone a fierce man like Zhu Yuanzhang. Wild monk, his ability is almost the same as that of a breeding pig, and he gave birth to a total of 26 sons. Having too many sons will be of great help in fighting wars and quelling chaos. Father and son can go into battle, but when it comes to establishing a heirloom, that is, a prince, it will be troublesome. Think about it, there is a big difference between being a prince and being a prince. The difference is huge. Being a prince means you will be surrounded by flowers all your life, but being a prince always means you will die badly. To consolidate his position, the prince has to kill the prince. We are all sons. You were brought out a few years earlier than me. Why is your treatment so different? Overtly and secretly, everyone is fighting. Not only are these princes fighting, but behind each prince, there are a bunch of they are an interest group. If they win the crown prince, they will be rich and prosperous. If they fail to win, they may be buried with them. So this fight for the throne is really a matter of life and death. It's much more bloody than our current officialdom fights for power and profit. Everyone is risking their lives and wealth. If you don't play well, you'll risk a lot of lives of. This Zhu Biao is a generous man and is very popular with Zhu Yuanzhang. Although Zhu Yuanzhang himself is not a good bird, this person often likes his opposite. In addition, Zhu Yuanzhang's wife, Queen Ma, is also a generous and sensible person. Women, Zhu Yuanzhang doesn't have to listen to what others say, but he still listens to Queen Ma's words. They are a couple in need who conquer the world together. Zhu Yuanzhang is so good to Zhu Biao. In the past, the place where the prince lived and worked was called the East Palace. Zhu Yuanzhang almost asked his whole team to take charge of the East Palace to assist Zhu Biao. Among them, Prime Minister Li Shanchang on the left is also the prince's young master, Prime Minister Su De on the right is also the prince's young master. Zhang Shiping Zhang records important military and state affairs. Chang Yuchun is also the Prince Xiaobao. Governor Feng Sheng on the right is also the Rightzhenchi. Zhang Shiping Zhang is responsible for political affairs. Hu Mei and Liao Yongzhong. Li Boxhen concurrently served as the deputy secretary of Zhan, Zhang Shizhou and Yushan. Zhao Yang, Wang Piyu concurrently served as deputy Zhan, and so on, and so on. Moreover, he no longer has another government official outside the East Palace. What do you mean? In addition to his own office, Zhu Biao's is the second office. When Zhu Yuanzhang is fighting outside, the affairs of the country will be handled by Zhu Biao. General management, in ancient times, was called the prince supervising the country. It is not easy for the emperor to do this. You must know that Lao Tzu is not very reassured and is not 100% sure. Even the emperor will not believe it, even his own son. The son took advantage of this opportunity and created Lao Tzu. On the contrary, it is not that it has never happened. This Zhu Yuanzhang is very confident about Zhu Biao, but he is not confident about his other sons. He knows that Zhu Biao is not a ruthless bastard like Li Shimin. It is probably difficult to kill all his brothers, but there are so many brothers, but each one those who covet the throne will not be merciful to Zhu Biao. When Zhu Yuanzhang was living here, he was not worried. He knew that none of his sons dared to move. But after he died, it was hard to tell. What he was most worried about was his fourth son, who was in Beijing. Zhu Di, who was named King of Yan, was a ruthless man, comparable to Li Shimin. He was the kind of bastard who would rush to the front of the army whenever there was a battle. This Zhu Di was dissatisfied with Zhu Yuanzhang's appointment of Zhu Biao as prince. He felt that he was more capable than Zhu Biao. Princes in the past were all very hummed up. One thing they had was that they were like women. They especially liked to snitch and complain. The princes were all like this to each other. Zhu Yuanzhang's third son, Prince of Jin, Zhu Fan, liked to do it the most. Such a thing. And when he went to Zhu Yuanzhang, what he liked to complain most was the complaint against his brother Zhu Di. He didn't dare to complain against Zhu Biao. When I heard about the complaint against the prince, I would suspect that you had evil intentions. But if you complain about it, other princes can show their loyalty to me and eldest brother. Historical books say that the king of Jin went to Zhu Yuanzhang to report to King Yan that he was taking risks, and he searched day and night for King Yan's details in the country and that he was dedicated to captivate King Yan. Think about it, Zhu Yuanzhang was originally interested in Zhu Di. If he has an idea, and there is such a person who often comes to report, can Zhu Yuanzhang not be wary of Zhu Di? Of course, this Zhu Yuanzhang is not a fuel-efficient lamp, and he will not believe or listen. He decided to place his cronies beside King Yan. Then he thought of that little clever eunuch Ma Sanbao, who taught him this in this way. Ma Sanbao understood and promised to complete the task, so when Lan Yu and Su Yude went to Beijing, Zhu Yuanzhang asked Lan Yu to take Ma Sanbao with him. Wait a minute, I'm exhausted from talking. Damn it, this is why I don't like talking about history with an unlearned and unskilled person like you. If I don't explain it clearly to you, you will have 100,000 reasons why, and you've explained it clearly, and I'm thirsty for what you're going to say, so I'll drink some tea first. Lao Zhu said, picked up the teacup. Niu took a big sip, spat out the tea leaves in his mouth, and then continued. Okay, let's go back to Lan Yu. Who is Lan Yu? The wife of Prince Zhu Biao is the daughter of Chang Yuchun, another founding general of the Ming dynasty. And this Lan Yu is Chang Yuchun. My wife's brother is also Zhu Biao's wife's uncle. Look, in our country, nepotism has a long history. With such a relationship, Lan Yu must have been on Zhu Biao's side during the dispute over the appointment of the crown prince. He also felt that King Zhu Di of Yan was not a thing and must be guarded against. Zhu Yuanzhang asked him to put his predecessor Ma Sanbao, a young eunuch brought back from Yunnan 1 year, was taken to Beijing and handed over to the palace of King Zhu Di of Yan. Lan Yu and King Zhu Di of Yan, they say it in a nice way. I see that you have been stationed at the border all year round and it's hard work, so I sent a young eunuch to take care of you. This little eunuch is a reward from the emperor. King Yan is unwilling in his heart. He knows that this is probably a spy planted here, but on the surface, he is still grateful and keeps Ma San. Come down. The king of Yan, Zhu Di, was always wary of Ma Sanbao at the beginning, but Ma Sanbao was well behaved and smart, and he was a child. Zhu Di felt that what a child can do, as time went by, Ma Sanbao also couldn't do anything. Gradually, he gained the trust of King Yan Zhu Di. Especially, other young eunuchs were all sissies, but Ma Sanbao, a young eunuch, could mount a horse and fight. This suited Zhu Di very much. Every time he fought, he took Ma Sanbao with him. Later, he also performed meritorious service in the Battle of Zhengkunba. Zhu Di gave him the surname Zheng. From then on, he became Zheng He and Zheng Sanbao. Sanbao eunuch. Looking back, I want to talk about Zhu Biao again. This person is not as good as God. Although Zhu Yuanzhang protected Zhu Biao in every possible way, he did not expect that this prince would be a short-lived prince. He died before he could become emperor. In August of the 24th year of Hongguo, that is, in August 1391, Zhu Yuanzhang's second son was granted the title of King Qin Zuping in Shaanxi. Because he kept making mistakes there and refused to correct them despite repeated admonitions, Zhu Yuanzhang was furious and recalled him to the capital. And at the same time sent Zhu Biao to inspect Shaanxi to investigate King Qin's words and deeds there. After Zhu Biao came back from his inspection tour, he presented a map of Shaanxi to Zhu Yuanzhang, which showed that when King Qin governed Shaanxi, the territory of Shaanxi actually expanded. He also said a lot of good things for King Qin. This also shows Zhu Biao's kind side and his treatment of himself. My brothers are still very caring. Because of Zhu Biao's intercession, Zhu Yuanzhang allowed Zhu Fang to go back to Xi'an. However, after Zhu Biao came back from Shaanxi, he fell ill. In April of the next year, he died of the illness. According to historical data, Zhu Yuanzhang was almost dead. Cried away. As soon as Zhu Biao died, the other princes were ready to make a move, feeling that their opportunity had come, especially the second, third, and fourth kings of Qin, Jin and Yan. However, Zhu Yuanzhang accepted the advice of the bachelor Lu Sanwu and raised Zhu Biao's second son Zhu Yunwen. As the emperor's grandson, the future heir to the throne, he stopped the kings from coveting the throne. Soon, in the 28th year of Hongguo, the king of Qin died. In the 31st year of Hongguo, before Zhu Yuanzhang died, the king of Jin also died. Zhu Di's two powerful opponents disappeared, and he became the eldest among the kings. At this time, Zhu Di's wings were already full. Not only did he have a bodyguard that had been accustomed to fighting for a long time, but his authority had already exceeded the Ming dynasty's regulations of distributing enfeoffments without tinkering with land, ranking nobles without coming to the people, and eating salaries without managing affairs. What does it mean? It means enfeoffing titles but not granting land, giving titles but not managing the people, enjoying salaries but not handling affairs. It means that these kings are just empty names in their fiefdoms. It is the general's job to lead troops and fight, and it is the local official's job to govern the people. These kings are more like the emperor sent to various places to supervise the generals and local officials. When we arrived at Zhu Di, not only did we have our own bodyguards, but if we have an army, we must have land. Otherwise, how can we support the army? The king also relies on salaries and rewards. They can't afford it at all. With an army and a territory, he became the actual local emperor. Zhu Di did this, and other princes followed suit. This was also the case with Zhu Yunwen, Huizong of the Ming dynasty. This person was still used to call him Emperor Jianwen in history. His reign name was Jianwen. After Emperor Jianwen came to the throne, seeing that the various vassal kings, that is, his uncles, were becoming more and more powerful, he began to worry. Zhu Yunwen adopted the suggestions of Qi Tai and Huang Zikan and began to reduce the vassal status. In less than a year, King Zhou, King Min, King Xiang, King Qi, and King Dai were deposed one after another. When Zhu Di saw this situation, he knew something was wrong. It was his turn soon, and he began to prepare. It can be said that Zhu Di had the ambition to usurp the throne, but he was also forced to rebel by Zhu Yunwen's reduction of vassal status. In July of the first year of Jianwen, that is, in July 1399, Zhu Di used a trick to capture and kill Zhang Bing, the chief envoy of Peking, and Si Zigui, the commander of Peking City, who was the mayor of Peeping and the commander of the military region, and ordered Zhang Yu, the guard commander of the Prince of Yan's palace, to be killed. Zhu Neng led his troops to attack the 9 gates of Peeping at night and occupied Peeping. After occupying Peeping, Zhu Di did not stop doing anything. Knowing that rebellion was already a capital crime, he might as well fight to the end, so he used the excuse of respecting the teachings of his ancestors and punishing the treacherous ministers Qi Tai and Huang Zikan to pacify the country. The troops left Beijing and fought south. At the same time, he abolished the Jianwen era title and restored the 32 years of Hongguo. He also wrote to the court, saying that according to the ancestral instructions, if there are no honest ministers in the dynasty, and there are traitors in the country, they will be punished with troops and the Qing monarch will be sidelined. Evil from then on, a 4-year-long war between uncle and nephew began, known in history as the Battle of Jingnan. As a result of the Battle of Jingnan, Zhu Di captured the capital Nanjing, but Jianwen Emperor Zhu Yunwen disappeared. Some said he was burned to death in the fire in the palace, while others said he escaped disguised as a monk. In short, it can't be found, and it has become a historical mystery. Then, the gold and silver treasures in Emperor Jianwen's palace also disappeared, Meng Ping said. Who told you? Old Zhu Qi asked. If this is not the case, what does this have to do with national assets? What else are we looking for in Nanjing? Meng Ping said. Don't worry, history evolves step by step. Do you really think that 38 years have passed in a blink of an eye? Lao Zhu said. Thank you for the tip from the third one from top to bottom, 131 on the shore. Thank you Yuengzi, Zibei Kangshenjdesan, and Humo Tribe for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Happy Sunday everyone. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1055. This Jianwen Emperor Zhu Yunwen was never found, Meng Ping asked Lao Zhu. Lao Zhu nodded. He has never been found, but now I know his whereabouts. Do you know his whereabouts? How do you know? Just by counting, Meng Ping asked strangely. Yes, this is the core part of what we are going to talk about. This is what most people don't know. Until now, it is still classified. Meng Ping burst into laughter and cursed, the whereabouts of an emperor of the Ming dynasty is a secret. Lao Zhu, stop pretending to be a ghost. It's not that I'm pretending, it's that our work this time is closely related to Emperor Jianwen. Moreover, this is also the whereabouts of Emperor Jianwen, which has never been exposed. The world has never known the reason for Emperor Jianwen, Lao Zhu said. Meng Ping looked at Lao Zhu and saw that he had a serious face and no intention of joking at all. Meng Ping asked. What's going on, Lao Zhu? This brings us back to the little eunuch Ma Sanbao. No, Zheng He was already in his possession at this time, Lao Zhu said, in the 4th year of Jianwen, that is, 1402, the throne between Zhu Di and Zhu Yunwen's uncle and nephew. At the end of the battle, the young eunuch Zheng He was already 31 years old. When the Nanjing imperial palace was captured, Zheng He found Zhu Yunwen in the palace. He asked Zhu Yunwen to put on his men's clothes and pretend to be his men, and he took him out of the palace. Anyway, there were no photos at that time. Ordinary soldiers had never had the opportunity to see Zhu Yunwen before. They didn't know what Zhu Yunwen looked like. Even if they saw him in person, they wouldn't be able to recognize him. But they all knew Zheng He and knew that he was Zhu Di, the red man next to him. Zheng He took Zhu Yunwen out of the palace and took him to his brother Ma Wenming's home, where he has been hiding. After the Battle of Jingnan, in June 1402, Zhu Di ascended the throne as emperor in Fengtian Hall, Nanjing. He designated the following year, 1403, as the first year of Yongle, and began his 22-year rule. On December 18, 1402, Zheng He, as a eunuch, was ordered to sacrifice Feng, Zhu Di's wet nurse. This was a very high honor. It shows how favored Zheng He was in the palace at that time. Because of this, no one dared to go when he harassed his brother Ma Wenming's home. He would not have thought that Emperor Jianwen, who could not be searched everywhere, would be hidden by Zheng He. On July 11, 1405, Zhu Di appointed Zheng He as his envoy and led a huge fleet of more than 27,000 people and more than 240 ships to embark on his first mission to the west. Zheng He's fleet sailed across the sea from Liujiahe in Suzhou to Fujian, and then set sail from Wuhumen in Fujian to what is now the South China Sea. On this mission, there was a special guest on Zheng He's ship, and that was Jianwen Emperor Zhu Yunwen. He disguised himself as a cook who was on Zheng He's command ship, helping Zheng He cook, so as to deceive others. Why did Zheng He take Emperor Jianwen on a trip? Because Emperor Jianwen was alive and dead, it had always been Zhu Di's heartache. Zhu Di would send a large number of people every year to search for Zhu Yunwen across the country. Zhu Yunwen stayed in Nanjing and even in China. It's all too dangerous. There happened to be such an opportunity, and the result of the discussion between Zheng He and Zhu Yunwen was to take him out to sea. This is not like the revolutionaries later who would run overseas when something happened. Overseas is the real paradise to escape the pursuit of the court. The reason why Zhu Yunwen himself wanted to go to the west was that he could hardly move at home and could do nothing. When he went overseas, he could find a place to build and organize his own troops just like Gojian, the king of Yu. And then try to restore the great cause after gathering strength. The final destination of Jianwen Emperor Zhu Yunwen was near Sumatra, which is now an island in Indonesia. Zheng He also left a group of his cronies to follow Zhu Yunwen there, including every time Zheng He went to the western seas. The pirates captured on the way were also sent there. There, they quickly multiplied into a small country composed of thousands of Han people. They respected Zhu Yunwen as their king. Because they were afraid that the news would leak out and Zhu Di would know that the king of the island was Zhu Yunwen, which would harm Zheng He and influence them. Only he and Zheng He knew Zhu Yunwen's true identity. He did not say his surname was Zhu to the outside world, but said that his surname was Zheng, and that he was a distant uncle of Zheng He. At the same time, the most beneficial thing for them is that every time Zheng He went to the Western Ocean, he brought a lot of gold, silver, and jewelry with him. Such a huge fleet, but every time he lost and sunk several ships and some people at sea. This is normal, so every time Zheng He's fleet arrives at the island, it will leave behind a large amount of gold and silver treasures to use as funds for future great undertakings. Unfortunately, that place is isolated overseas, and it is really difficult to recruit troops. In addition, from time to time, soldiers and horses from various kingdoms on the nearby island of Sumatra come to invade. Several wars have occurred, which makes Zhu Yunwen difficult to cope with. Expand your own power. Counterattack on the central plains and complete the great cause of restoration. Seeing that there is no way to complete it in his own hands, Zhu Yunwen can only ask his sons to guard the huge amount of wealth. At that time, on the nearby island of Sumatra, the Kingdom of Sumatra, the Orphan Kingdom, and the Emirate of Aceh were also engaged in successive wars. Zhu Yunwen was worried that once Sumatra was unified, the unified new kingdom would definitely invade them. In order to preserve his lineage incense, and in order to preserve the huge wealth, Zhu Yunwen made a bold decision. He decided to divide his 4 sons into 4 lines, and each line would carry a part of the gold and silver jewelry before leaving here. He wrote an edict to each son. In the edict, he described in detail his departure from China. The reason for arriving here, and his true identity. He gave his descendants the surname Zheng from then on, and did not return to the surname Zhu until he returned to China. He told them not to forget that they came from the Middle Earth and would one day return to the Middle Earth to complete the great cause of rejuvenation. He told his sons to put his edict together with the gold and silver jewelry. Those gold and silver jewelry must not be squandered. From generation to generation, except for the chief patriarch of each lineage, that is, the treasure holder, no one else. It is impossible to know the true situation and the location of the treasure. He asked his 4 sons to set off with 4 fleets, and agreed that every 10 years, no matter where they are, each lineage must send a representative to Sumatra to hold a clan meeting to revise the genealogy and discuss major issues in the clan. Only in this way will your entire clan not be separated. The people of these 4 lines are actually 5 lines, and 1 lineage is the 3 daughters who stayed with Zhu Yunzhen. The other 4 lines of people later went to Malacca, 1 to Honolulu, and 1 to Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka. There is still a lineage, which first went to Guri, which is India, and later went to Europe from Guri. These 5 lineage people, until Zhu Yunwen died in Sumatra, Zheng He died in Gilai, India during his 7th voyage. They still followed the ancestral precepts and held a clan meeting every 10 years. The entire clan has always maintained have a close connection. The Chinese genealogy is really a good thing. The genealogy that is revised every 10 years allows them to remain emotionally a family. In the 16th century, a large number of Westerners, such as the Netherlands, England, Portugal, and Spain, began to enter Southeast Asia in large numbers. The entire Southeast Asia began to become turbulent. After discussion, their entire clan decided to begin further migration. Who originally stayed in Sumatra, went to Honolulu. Those in Ceylon and Malacca started to go to Europe, and finally met up with the group from Gilai. Before leaving, they put all the gold and silver treasures that were inconvenient to carry in Ceylon and exchanged them for gems for easy portability. These 5 lines of people actually ended up becoming 2 lines. One line was in Honolulu, and the other line took European merchant ships to the European continent, and was finally scattered across Europe. That's tens of thousands of people for more than 10 years. The Great Migration is exciting to think about. Are these people still there? Meng Ping asked. Of course they are still there, scattered in Europe and the United States. If you go to Chinatown in these 2 places and see the Zheng Ancestral Hall, you can find them, Lao Zhu said. What about the treasures hidden in these ancestral halls? Meng Ping asked. No more. These treasures were finally concentrated in the vaults of 2 banks in Switzerland. Do you know how much the treasures hidden there are worth now? Lao Zhu asked. How much? Meng Ping was curious. The most conservative estimate is more than $6 billion. I'll go, there are so many, Meng Ping shouted, and then he immediately shouted, no, no, Lao Zhu, their treasure, such a secret thing, how do you know about it? I have seen the list of their treasures and the edict, Lao Zhu said. Ah, Meng Ping was surprised and shouted, what are you talking about? Do you mean that you have read the edict left by Zhu Yunwen to his sons? Right. How did you see it? Of course Lao Jia showed it to me. What I saw were photos. Otherwise, how could I explain this history to you so clearly? Not only is it an edict, there is also a written record along with the list. The decision of each of their clan meetings was made. How do you know that the edict is not fake? Meng Ping asked. Lao Meng, you humming look down on me, have you forgotten what I studied? Who can make a fake edict to deceive me? Lao Zhu scolded. Meng Ping thought for a while and said, since I have seen the edict and the list, it must be that the treasure hunter has also found it. Then there is another ghost. These descendants of Zhu Yunwen are now Americans, British, and Germans. Are you human? Lao Zhu looked at him and chuckled, looking at your urgency, the biggest part is still in the Swiss bank. What I said before is worth at least $6 billion, and that's what I meant. Meng Ping cursed, didn't you say it has been donated? Yes, it was donated, but it didn't reach Chiang Kai-shek's hands. What's going on? Well, it's a long story again. Lao Zhu didn't know whether he was trying to show off, or he was really anxious, and shouted, oh, I have to pee again. Thank you to Dahai 6169, Dal Tin Soldier, and RIRI Shushu for your rewards. Thank you for your monthly tickets to Hua Xi and Yongshao, Hua Er, and Boy, Bustling Farce, and Road. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1056. Lao Zhu came back and saw Meng Ping lying there with his eyes closed to rest. Meng Ping is just pretending, he wants Lao Zhu to hold it in, suffocate him to death, and see if you can show off. Sure enough, Lao Zhu sat down, took a sip of tea, and looked at Meng Ping as calm as water. He couldn't hold it in any more and cursed, "Lao Meng, after hearing such an exciting story, can you still fall asleep?" Meng Ping said calmly, "What does it have to do with me? What do I have to be excited about?" Meng Ping said and continued to close his eyes and rest. Lao Tzu hit a soft nail. He thought for a while and came up with another plan. He said, "Lao Meng, there is a person. If I tell you, you will definitely not know him." Meng Ping said, "Why do I want to know each other? There are so many people in the world, and I know everyone. How can I still know them? Don't say one, I mean 10. You definitely don't know them. You know Lu Ligan, get to know Zhang Chen, get to know Chen Qiang, get to know Li Yong, get to know Wu Ziyawai, get to know Wei Venfang, get to know Erhuo and Lao Tan, get to know Han Jiao Lu Bang and Lin Shuwen. Wait a minute, Lao Meng, how could I not know about Lu Bang, the great ancestor of the Han dynasty? I must know more than you do. By the way, who were you talking about earlier, Lin Shuwen?" "Lin Shuwen, this person is related to the great ancestor of the Han dynasty, Lu Bang." Meng Ping smiled and said, "Of course it is related, they are together, and Lin Shuwen calls Zhang Chen brother, but she has never called Xiao Zhao sister-in-law, but Xiao Zhao is Zhang Chen's wife, and they, and Lu Ligan, Erhuo, Lao Tan, Wu Ziyawai, etc. are all friends of Lu Bang, the founder of the Han dynasty." "Stop, stop, Lao Meng, you humming stop, you are trying to trick me. Do these people you are talking about really exist?" Lao Tzu asked. "Of course," Meng Ping said. "Where is it recorded?" "In the Book of Han." Meng Ping shook his head. "Book of the later Han? Historical records? Hanji? Ziji Tongjian? Tongjian Chronicles? Historical outline commentary?" Lao Tzu asked a series of questions. Meng Ping laughed, then shook his head and said, "The great ancestors of the Han dynasty, Lu Bang and Lin Shuwen, were both Taiwanese." "Lao Meng, what the hell are you talking about?" Lao Tzu cursed. "Really, I'm not talking nonsense. They are all my friends and we often drink together," Meng Ping said with a smile. Lao Tzu breathed a sigh of relief and cursed, "Fake, you humming sound like it's true. It scared me. I thought I had a blind spot in my knowledge." Meng Ping laughed. After a while, Lao Tzu still couldn't hold it in anymore and said, "Lao Meng, what I'm talking about is a historical figure. You really don't know that?" Meng Ping said nothing, and Lao Tzu himself continued, "Li Lejun, do you know?" Meng Ping sat up from the recliner and said, "I also know that the people who joined the Tang Menghui together with Sun Depao, and the people who protected the country and fought against Yuan together with Caie and Tang Jiyao, right?" Lao Tzu was stunned for a moment and shouted, "Okay, Lao Meng, I didn't expect you to know such partial knowledge. What nonsense! There were articles written about him in tabloids and colorful magazines in the past few years." "Did he really frame his good friend and then steal his wife?" Meng Ping asked. "Okay, let's forget it." "What do you mean? Even if it is, yes it is, and if it is not, it is not. Fortunately, you still study history." "Is your family's history estimated by Mao?" Meng Ping said sarcastically. Lao Tzu chuckled and said, "Even if there is such a thing, you are talking about his later wife Hua Shiki, who had 10 children with him. However, this is not important. What is important is his previous wife Chen Yuzhen, and their child Li Gongkang." Meng Ping was not interested in the latter part of what Lao Tzu said, but was very interested in the first part. Li Lejun, a second-level general of the National Revolutionary Army, studied in the 6th phase of the artillery section of the Japanese Army non-commissioned officer school in his early years. During his stay in Japan, Huang Xing introduced him to Sun Yat-sen, and later joined the Tang Menghui. After the revolution of 1911 broke out, Li Lejun was promoted to the Chief of Staff of the Jiangxi Governor's Office and the Commander-in-Chief of the Navy and Army, forcing the main ships of the Beiyang Navy to declare an uprising. In 1912, when the Republic of China was established, Li Lejun was appointed governor of Jiangxi by Sun Yat-sen. On March 20, 1913, before the Congress was convened, Song Jiaran, the sole figure of the Kuomintang at that time and known as the father of Chinese constitutionalism, was assassinated by Yuan Shikai at the Shanghai railway station. Prior to this, the National Congress of the Republic of China held an election in which the Kuomintang, after a great victory, Song Jiaran was planning to follow the European cabinet system practice, go to Beijing to participate in the Congress, and form a cabinet as the leader of the party. After Song Jiaran was assassinated, Li Lejun communicated with Tan Yangkai, the governor of Hunan, Hu Hanmin, the governor of Guangdong, and Bai Wenwei, the governor of Anhui, to rebel against Yuan. On July 12, 1913, the general headquarters of the Yuan army was established in Hukou, Jiangxi. Li Lejun took office as the commander-in-chief and opened the curtain of the Second Revolution. After the defeat in August, he went into exile in Japan. On December 12, 1915, Yuan Shikai announced his acceptance of the throne, overthrew the republic, restored the monarchy, changed the Republic of China to the Empire of China, and ordered the abolition of the Republic of China era, and changed the fifth year of the Republic of China, 1916, to the first year of Hongxian, which was known as the Hongxian monarchy in history. Li Lejun opposed Yuan Shikai's restoration of the monarchy, defended the republican system, and proposed that I would rather be a free ghost than a slave under authoritarian power. He rushed back to China from Nanyang to prepare for a second attack on Yuan. On December 25, 1915, he, CAIE and Tang Jiyao organized the National Protection Army in Yunnan and started the National Protection War. CAIE was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the First Army and sent troops to Sichuan. Li Lejun was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Second Army and marched into Sichuan. Guangdong and Guangxi, Tang Jiyao was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Third Army and was based in Yunnan. On March 23, 1916, Yuan Shikai ordered the restoration of the Republic of China era title. After being the emperor for 63 days, he sadly abdicated. On June 6, Yuan Shikai died of uremia. His successor, President Li Yuanhong, announced the restoration of the Provisional Constitution and Congress, and the war to protect the country. Finish. After 1917, Li Lejun twice served as the Chief of General Staff of the Southern Government formed by Sun Yat-sen in Guangzhou, assisting Sun Yat-sen in defeating Chen Jianming. In early 1927, Li Lejun was appointed chairman of the Jiangxi provincial government by Chiang Kai-shek, and served as a member of the Standing Committee of the Nanjing National Government and a member of the Standing Committee of the Military Commission. After the September 18 incident in 1931, Li Lejun called Chiang Kai-shek and advocated respecting freedom of speech, reforming politics, and united against Japan. Li Lejun had 7 sons and 3 daughters. After the outbreak of the anti-Japanese war, Li Lejun's eldest son was studying medicine and his younger son was only 4 years old. In order to support the anti-Japanese war, he sent all 5 of his sons who had reached service age into the army. 2 were in Whampoa Military Academy and 1 was in the army. While at the Naval Academy, 2 of them went to Burma to join the Chinese Expeditionary Force. At that time, the media widely reported that they were called the elders of the party and the country, and the 5th son joined the army. On February 20, 1946, Li Lejun died in Chongqing due to hypertensive myocardial infarction at the age of 64. For such a revolutionary martyr, Meng Ping remembered reading in a magazine that his stain was that he could not escape being a beauty, and his methods were dirty and despicable. It is said that while he was studying abroad in the 6th phase of the gunnery section of the Japanese Army Non-Commissioned Officer School, he became good friends with a Fujianese named Gong Yang. After Li Lejun became the governor of Jiangxi, He also don't forget each other even if you are rich and noble, and appointed Gongyang as his personal adjutant. Not long after Gongyang became an adjutant, he returned to Fuzhou to get married. The person his family married was Hua Shiki, who was from a well-born family. The bride was naturally beautiful and charming. More importantly, she received a new education and was proficient in Latin. Being able to write poetry and composition was relatively rare among women at that time. After Gongyang returned home to get married, he returned to the Nanchang Jiangxi governor's mansion. He happily showed the photo of himself and his newlywed wife to his superior and good friend Li Lejun. Unexpectedly, Li Lejun couldn't pull it out after seeing it. "My wife thinks about it day and night, and is haunted by dreams." Soon, Li Lejun arranged for Gongyang to return to his hometown of Fuzhou and send a confidential document to Sun Daoren, the governor of Fujian. He told him that after delivering the letter, he would rest at home for 3 months. Gongyang was naturally overjoyed. After all, he could go back to his hometown to reunite with his new wife. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived at Fuzhou Dudu's mansion, he was arrested by armed guards. He immediately claimed that according to a secret report, Gong had been selling confidential government documents to Yuan Shikai. The facts were clear and the evidence was conclusive. 3 days later, Gong was arrested. Yang was shot. After Gongyang's death, Li Lejun got close to Hua Shiki in the name of comforting his family, and then gave this grieving and fragile woman meticulous care, gaining her favor, and finally accepted his pursuit, even though he knew that she had a wife, but she still became his concubine. But Li Lejun promised her that after getting married, he would treat her with the status and identity of an eldest wife. This matter was exposed when the governor of Fujian, Sun Daoren, resigned, and his successor, Li Haoji, saw the secret telegram sent by Li Lejun to Sun Daoren. As a result, the matter was exposed. He said in public, "Gong was shot because of the fact that Li Zihe sent a secret message to declare the crime. Later, I heard that Li Zihe had taken his wife as a concubine, and his character was completely lost." Meng Ping asked Lao Zhu, "Lao Zhu, do you think a person like Li Lejun is a hero or a bear?" "Let's say he is a hero. He took this friend's wife without mercy and even killed his friend. It's so despicable and dirty. His methods are despicable, so he can't be considered a hero, right? But participating in the Tongmenghui to protect the country and fight against UN, including later calling on Chiang Kai-shek to resist the war, and sending his 5 sons to the anti-Japanese battlefield, must be regarded as a hero. This person is too complicated. History is inherently complicated, and so are people." Lao Tzu said, "There are no absolute good people, and there are no absolute bad people." That Wang Jingwei planned to assassinate the regent Zaifeng, was arrested afterwards, sentenced to life imprisonment, and was given a gift in prison. The poem "The Sword Leads to a Quick Success," living up to the youth's head, was widely recited for a while. Who would have thought that this young man would eventually become a big traitor? "It makes sense," Meng Ping nodded. "Including the matter of seizing a friend's wife, it has indeed spread a lot, but many people who have witnessed it have kept silent, and it cannot be ruled out that they were framed. Li Lejun has offended too many people. He has offended Lao Yuan and his gang, and having offended Hu Hanmin, Chiang Kai-shek strongly recommended Sun Yat-sen for the position of principal of Huangpu Military Academy, but he and Chiang Kai-shek never dealt with him. So, we cannot rule out the possibility of opponents throwing dirty water on him." Meng Ping said, "Okay, that's it, Lao Tzu, you can now tell me what happened to Li Lejun's first wife Chen Yuzhen and his son Li Gongkang. Among the rumors you mentioned, at least one thing is true, that is, when Li Lejun and Hua Shiki got married, Li Lejun had a wife in his hometown and was not divorced. Hua Shiki was indeed a concubine and had a son, Li Gongkang. And he was in the countryside with his first wife, and they rarely had any contact with each other afterwards," Lao Tzu said. "Lao Tzu, you suddenly jumped to Li Lejun again. Is this just a small talk? Or does this guy have something to do with the wealth you mentioned? Meng Ping said. Of course it is related. Meng Ping was surprised. How did they get related? As mentioned earlier, Li Lejun failed to challenge UN the first time, and after the second revolution ended, he fled to Japan, right? Lao Zhu asked. Meng Ping nodded and said yes. After arriving in Japan, one thing happened. In view of the complexity, disorganization, and lack of combat effectiveness of the original Kuomintang, Sun Yat-sen decided to rebuild the Chinese Revolutionary Party and start another revolution. He stipulated that all those who join the party must have their fingerprints stamped, swear an oath, and swear an oath. Absolutely obey his personal leadership. Huang Xing and Li Lejun were furious when they heard this, and had a big quarrel with Sun Depao. They said that when we challenge UN, we are against personal dictatorship. We want to recreate the republic. What is the difference between Sun Depao and UN Shikai? Both of them refused to join this organization, and the two parties broke up. Huang Xing went to the United States, and Li Lejun went to Europe. Their purpose was to raise funds and follow a different route from Sun Depao, or to continue to follow the path of a democratic republic. Road. As Lao Zhu said, Meng Ping shouted, I understand. Did this Li Lejun meet Zhu Yunzhen's descendants in Europe? Yes, but I didn't meet him. There was a man named Zheng among his entourage. He was a passionate young man who came back from France for revolution. Lao Zhu said. He knew what Li Lejun wanted to do, and he was the one who encouraged Li Lejun to go to Europe. After arriving in France, he introduced several heads of their clan to Li Lejun. Thank you to Dal Tin Soldier and Riri Shushu for the reward. Thank you Baikan Scholar, Tianying 1978, and Book Friends 201904121548362008 for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1057. Of course Li Lejun's entourage doesn't know about the treasure. He thinks that since he has so many people in Europe and everyone is very concerned about domestic affairs, he should be able to raise part of the money in Europe. Lao Zhu took a sip of tea and asked Meng Ping, Lao Meng, tell me, what did these revolutionaries mainly rely on back then? Meng Ping thought for a moment and said, the route is correct and the eloquence is good. Lao Zhu smiled and said, why aren't you brave in battle? Yes, in fact, those who can achieve great things must have good eloquence. So what kind of wars can Liu Bang and Liu Bei fight? It's because they know how to cheat and employ people. Lao Zhu said, the basis of being able to cheat and employ people is good eloquence and eloquence. Well, you can make people think that your cheating is a trick. If you can't use sweet words, how can you impress people? Lao Meng, you are also very eloquent, so you can achieve great things. Lao Zhu laughed as he spoke, and Meng Ping scolded, are you praising me or scolding me? Are you saying that I can cheat or talk nicely? Knowing words and making a good impression, Lao Zhu said, this is the highest state of success. Didn't you hear Lao Cha say earlier that you left a good impression on him in a short time? This is making a good impression. I really can't learn from it. Come. It's even more clever. If I, Mr. Zhu, say the same thing, it might offend people. But if you, Lao Meng, say it, it will make people feel like a breath of fresh air. No wonder all the old comrades in the agency like you. What do you want to say? Meng Ping asked. I want to say that this Li Lejun is a man who is eloquent and eloquent. You have the potential to be him, Lao Zhu said with a smile. In the agency, I can't even get a sunny office even if I wanted. You Lao Meng, your level is not as good as mine, but how can you have both sides? Everyone is selling you face. What I said is right. Meng Ping waved his hand and shouted, go and get to the point. How is Li Lejun doing in Europe? When Li Lejun arrived in France, it happened to be the time when they were holding a clan meeting. All the elders came. Li Lijun was invited to introduce the situation in the country to them, and also told them about his and Huang Xing's plans. He told those people, my heart was filled with excitement, and I wished I could go back in person to participate in the great revolution in the country. But they know it's impossible. Although they are descendants of Zhu Yuanzhang and Zhu Yunwen, if they are asked to jump on a horse and carry a gun now, they no longer have the ability or the courage. They all discussed that since it is impossible for us to go back, we can only find agents. Now that the Tartars have been driven out of the country, the next step is to overthrow the warlords, unify the country, and build a prosperous and free land. And this Li Lijun, Sun Yat-sen also praised him. Mr. Z, he is capable of martial arts on horseback and literature on horseback. He is a rare Confucian general of our time. Those big family members also think that Li Lijun is a rare talent. He is indeed a man who can kill warlords with a gun and build a country with a pen. The final decision of the clan meeting is to give most of the treasures, to leave it to Li Lijun to assist him and Huang Xing in their great cause of republic. Another important reason why they can safely hand over this large amount of wealth to Li Lijun is that they have clan members who follow Li Lijun, who can at least supervise the use of this wealth. Li Lijun also pays attention to these elders. Promise that you will keep and use this wealth properly and live up to their trust. It is absolutely impossible for Mr. Li himself to embezzle or misappropriate even a single cent of it. Everyone handed Li Lijun the key, password, and seal of the Swiss bank's vault. They also gave him Zhu Yunwen's edict and the list of belongings in the vault. That edict also went to the Swiss bank. They have another copy that must be presented. What's in the vault is gold and jewelry, not cash. After Li Lijun receives this wealth, he still needs time to cash it in. Otherwise, how can he bring this war back home? They are on the wanted list of the Biyang warlords. Even for them to return to the country, they still need to sneak across, let alone bring so many things with them. Li Lijun feels that it is safer to bring them back to the country at this time than to stay in the vault of a Swiss bank and deal with them after the situation stabilizes. The construction of a new republic also requires funds. At this time, it was already July 1914. The First World War broke out and Europe fell into chaos. Japan immediately declared war on Germany. After hearing the news, Li Lijun immediately boarded the ship from Marseille and headed east. The ship arrived in Saigon, wanted to disembark, and pretended to go to Vietnam to go to Yunnan. However, he was blocked by French customs and was not allowed to disembark. He had to transfer to Hong Kong to live temporarily. In November, he transferred to Singapore. Together with Huang Xing, Xiang Qiu, Zhang Shizhao, Cheng Qian, and others, he organized an anti-UN group in Nanyang, the European Affairs Research Society, in the name of studying the war in Europe. At the beginning of 1915, Yuan Shikai announced the restoration of the monarchy. On May 9, he openly accepted Japan's 21 measures aimed at destroying China and betrayed national sovereignty. The whole country was in an uproar. Li Lijun was very angry when he got the news. He felt that he had to return to China immediately. At the same time, he also realized that he could not leave the revolutionary organization. He just sat overseas and talked about doctrine every day. Although he did not agree with it in his heart, he still went through the procedures according to Sun Yat-sen's regulations and joined the Chinese Communist Party. Revolutionary Party. In early December 1915, Sunday Daepao himself was hiding overseas, but he called Li Lijun to urge him to return to China and carry out an armed struggle against Yuan dynasty. Haha, this is the true nature of a revolutionary leader as mentioned before. Li Lijun went from Singapore to Haiphong, and then to Hanoi, went to Lao Cai, sneaked into Yunnan from Lao Cai, organized a national protector army with Caie and Tang Jiyao, and began to fight against Yuan. After Yuan Shikai's death, Feng Qiuzhang and Duan Kaiyue ousted the unarmed president Li Yuanhong, and actually took control of the government. They refused to restore the provisional constitution and convene a congress, delusional to rule China by force and continue their dictatorial rule. Sun Yat-sen left Shanghai and went south to Guangzhou, calling for the protection of the Dharma. From August 25 to September 1, 1917, he held an extraordinary session of the National Assembly in Guangzhou and contacted the provinces of Yunnan, Guangxi, and Guangdong to establish the military government of the Republic of China. We later used to call it the Southern Military Government. China at that time was actually one country and two governments. Including later at the Paris Peace Conference, Liang Qiqiao and Wu Tingfang represented the Southern Military Government. Although Gu Weihun and others were official Chinese representatives, they only represented the Beijing national government in the north. After the establishment of the Southern Military Government, Sun Yat-sen appointed himself Generalissimo of the Navy and Army, and Li Lijun was appointed Chief of Staff of the Generalissimo's office. When Li Lijun left Shanghai and went south to Guangzhou, he secretly returned to his hometown in Wuning, Jiangxi Province. The purpose of returning was to leave Zhu Yunwen's edict, as well as the Swiss bank's vault key and seal to his son in his hometown, and also left it to his son in his hometown. The password was also told to him. Because he thought that he would definitely be galloping on the battlefield next, and there would be a risk of sacrifice at any time. Once he sacrificed, those treasures would become ownerless. This is the kind of worry he often reveals in his conversations with his entourage. The reason why he didn't tell Hua Shiki and their children the secret was that they had been with him all the time. When he died, they were likely to be unlucky. In contrast, it was his child who had not been with him for many years. His wife and son, whom he had forgotten in the countryside, were the safest. At that time, almost no one in the entire society knew that he had such a wife and son, because whenever they appeared in the newspapers, they were photos of him and Hua Shiki, and they talked about his children, and there were no newspapers. Include his son in the country. Li Lijun took photos of the edict and the list, gave them to his followers for safekeeping, and returned to his hometown in the countryside. He took his son, buried these things, and told his son a lot of things. Li Lijun stayed at home for one night, then left home and went to Guangzhou to take over his position as Chief of Staff of the Southern Military Government. After that, he fell into internal fighting within the Southern Military Government. The Guangxi warlords drove away Sun Yat-sen and reorganized the Southern Military Government. During the military government, Chen Jianming returned to the army and defeated the Gui clique. Sun Yat-sen returned to Guangzhou. Then Chen Jianming rebelled again and Sun Yat-sen avoided the Yongfeng ship. It can be said that at that time, while the northern warlords were fighting back and forth, competing for territory and the throne of the president, the southern military government, which claimed to be the Revolutionary Party, was not much better. They were just a bunch of rabble until the old age. Only with the rise of Jiang's Whampoa clique could they be able to unify China, at least on the surface. After Sun Yat-sen died in 1925, Li Lijun became a marginalized person. He was ostracized by Hu Hanmin in Guangzhou. When he arrived in Zhangjiakou, he served as Feng Yuxiang's general counselor of the National Army. The National Army was defeated by Feng Jun. He could only head south to Shanghai. The Northern Expeditionary Army entered Nanchang and called Li Lijun as chairman of the Jiangxi provincial government. Li Lijun took office. The Kuomintang began to split Ning'an again. The Wuhan national government appointed Zhu Dpi as chairman of the Jiangxi provincial government. In 1927, Chiang Kai-shek established the national government in Nanjing and appointed Li Lijun as a member of the Standing Committee of the National Government and a member of the Standing Committee of the Military Commission. Li Lijun had just arrived in Nanjing and was still hot. Chiang Kai-shek also served under the leadership of Li Zongren, He Yingqin, and Wang Jingwei. Forced by the police, he electrified and left the field. Since then, he has been marginalized because of his disagreements with Chiang Kai-shek on many matters. It can be said that he has no chance to dedicate this wealth to the country. After the outbreak of World War II, he gave up this idea. The entire European continent was occupied by Germany, and you couldn't even go to Switzerland. Until Li Lejun died in Chongqing, the world was still in chaos. After Li Lejun's death, it can be said that only his son from the countryside was the only person in charge of this wealth. Unfortunately, after the Japanese occupied Zhejiang, even their Wuning countryside was not spared. Li Lejun and his son had long been lost. Got in touch. Thank you for the tip from the third one from top to bottom, 131, on the shore. Thank you AIG, Hua Xin Yang Xiao, Reader 113984375987757056, and Book Friend 201807201259208875 for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Happy Monday everyone. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei-Shi Niang. Chapter 1058. What's the name of Li Lejun's son, Li Gongkang, right? Have you found Li Gongkang? Meng Ping asked Lao Zhu. No, I know that he is still alive in Nanjing, but he is already 88 years old, so this matter has become very urgent, Lao Zhu said. That's wrong, Meng Ping shouted. Only two people know about this treasure, Li Lejun and his son. Li Lejun is dead and his son has not been found. How did Lao Zhu, you, and Lao Cha know about it? Lao Zhu looked at Meng Ping and asked, you forgot about this, there is another person who knows about it. Anyone else knows? Yes, that attendant. Not only did he know the whole thing, he also accompanied Li Lejun when he secretly returned to his hometown in Wuning. But he didn't know or see where they hid their things. The most important thing was the password. There is no written record, it was taught orally, and even the elders in France who knew the code have passed away. Lao Zhu said, this attendant, after Li Lejun died, he returned to France. The whole thing was exposed. He only told him when he was dying and called our ambassador to France to his home. Including this whole thing and the history of their clan, he said that our ambassador to France recorded it, as well as the photos of Zhu Yun's edict and the treasure list, which he also gave to the ambassador. The ambassador reported this matter to the country, and experts were organized to study the photos provided by his entourage and his entire statement. They found that all the times and places were consistent, including the use of our embassies in Indonesia and Sri Lanka. We did find some records of Chinese activities in the area at that time, and the relevant leaders concluded that this was true. And then you organized such a working group and asked Lao Cha to take charge of this matter, Meng Ping asked. Yes, Lao Zhu said. Now that we know there is such a fortune, wouldn't it be enough for our country to directly negotiate with the Swiss government, find the relevant banks, and get these things back, Meng Ping said. Are you stupid, Lao Meng, do you think it's that simple, Lao Zhu scolded. Isn't it that simple? There are special historical reasons for this, Lao Zhu said. What's the reason, Meng Ping asked. In 1949, when the People's Republic of China was founded, we declared that we would not recognize the interests of all foreign governments, groups, and individuals in China, not to mention other things. How many British and American people were there on Nanjing Road and the Bund in Shanghai, French and Jewish houses? Let's just say how many foreigners' assets we have in Nanjing, overnight, all became our country's. Now that you are saying that you want to recover this asset in the official name, based on the principle of reciprocity, can people also ask you for the assets in China? That makes sense, Meng Ping nodded. But it doesn't matter if it's an individual. I can take back the things I deposit in the bank at any time as long as I follow the retrieval conditions agreed upon at the time, especially from a bank in Switzerland, right? Lao Zhu asked. Meng Ping is right. So the difficulty of this matter is that even in the country, it must be carried out like underground work, and no one can know that government actions are involved. If someone gets caught, then this matter must be done. Of course the bank and the Swiss government want such a huge fortune to become ownerless, do you understand? Understood, Meng Ping said. Then what should we do next? Waiting for Lao Cha's instructions. Lao Tzu said, in Nanjing, we are not the only ones working, there are many other people working. When Lao Tzu said this, Meng Ping thought of the Audi car that Lao Cha got into at the gate of Jinling Hotel with the red license plate starting with South Sea. Lu Ligan's Shanghai project is called Splendid Peace Garden. Yes, there is a splendid peace garden in Hangzhou, and Shanghai should also have one, Shanghai Splendid Peace Garden. The land in Puxi was developed at that time. Lu Ligan had already thought about it and called it Shanghai Splendid Jiangnan. Although there was no Jiangnan Canal in front of it, wasn't Shanghai Jiangnan? In addition to the unusable splendid Qiantang, Lu Ligan felt that he wanted to move all the splendid things from Hangzhou to Shanghai one by one, to various cities across the country, and finally to splendid China. Lu Ligan and others then bought 4 pieces of land in Hangzhou, 1 piece of land in Shanghai, and 2 pieces of land in Suzhou. Lu Ligan called Meng Ping and said, Lao Meng, just wait, I am getting closer and closer to you. It's getting closer, and it's about to hit you in Nanjing. Meng Ping laughed and said, okay, you are welcome in Nanjing. Meng Ping thought to himself, I am going to build a $6 billion project. Although neither Lao Cha nor Lao Tzu told him, Meng Ping doesn't care how much reward they can get if they get the $6 billion back to China. He really didn't do it because of money. He is not short of money. For him, what is more tempting is this figure, $6 billion. As long as it can be completed, the country will give a certificate with this figure on it, which is awesome. Force. What Meng Ping cares about is this number. The sense of accomplishment that can be achieved by accomplishing such a large number of things is what Meng Ping needs. Lu Ligan and the others took over the land in Suzhou. Ying came to Lu Ligan and Tan Shahen and told them that she wanted to be the general manager of the Suzhou company. You have to let me go and let me go on my own. I can't. Will you always be my nanny? Ying told them. Tan Shahen smiled and said, you are a house seller, do you know how to build a house? Of course I know. After working on so many projects, I'll take a look at it, Ying shouted. The tone is really not small, Lu Ligan said. You don't believe it, Mr. Lu, Ying was unconvinced. Either you let Mr. Tan come up with questions to test us and see whether you know better or I know better. Lu Ligan quickly said, no, don't take the exam. I always lose in exams. Ying, tell me, if you leave, who can take your place in Hangzhou? Tan Shahen asked. Xiao Lu is okay, Ying said. Lu Ligan asked, which Xiao Lu? Tan Shahen glanced at him and said, it turns out that Song Chunming is their sales manager. Well, I think she can do it too. Tan Shahen in turn interceded for Ying. She and Lu Ligan said, then let Ying go. If there is really any problem with the construction, if it doesn't work, let Lao Wan go over and help her. From Shanghai to Suzhou, it only costs 100 yuan kilometer. Ying shouted, I can definitely do it. Tan Shahen smiled and said, okay, I believe you can do it. Lu Ligan and Ying said, you can go, but you have to agree to one condition. What conditions? Ying asked. I know you have passed your driver's license test, and you let Fan Jiangguo drive with you on the street every day these days. You even hit a trash can the day before yesterday, right? Ying stuck out her tongue and smiled. When you arrive in Suzhou, the company will definitely assign you a car, but remember, you must hire a driver. Also, you can drive the car yourself in the city. If you go out of the city, you must let the driver drive, Lu Ligan said. Why? Ying asked, why can Lao Wan and Fan Jiangguo drive by themselves, but I need a driver? For your safety, they are men. It's different. It's not that the skills of male drivers will definitely be better than those of female drivers. But, driving long distances is not just a matter of skills. Female drivers will be bullied by other cars on the road. Do you understand? When Lu Ligan was talking, Tan Shahen also nodded, and she said to Ying Ying, "Promise Mr. Lu, or I will withdraw my decision to send you." Ying Ying quickly said, "Okay, I promise you." Ying Ying went out, and Tan Shahen and Lu Ligan said they would pick one person from the financial center, one person from Lao Tan, and another person from Ying Ying's sales department to organize a team to go to Suzhou. Lu Ligan said yes. The two pieces of land that Lu Ligan and his team took in Suzhou are very close to each other. One is at the end of Guanqian Street, at the junction with Renmin Road, and the other is at the other end of Guanqian Street, between Ziyajia Lane and Linmin Road. The intersection of Dun Road. Lu Ligan and the others decided to develop the land at the junction of Guanqian Street and Renmin Road first. Renmin Road is the main street in Suzhou and also the commercial center. Suzhou No. 1 department store, Taiwa Mall, and Renmin Shopping Center are all nearby. Lu Ligan, we want to build a 38-story tallest building in Suzhou here, with a shopping mall on the lower 4 floors and commercial and residential buildings on the upper floors. Their project is called Splendid World. After entering 1999, the entire real estate industry is booming. This prosperity is not only reflected in the land acquisition and storage system that has been implemented in various places. Real estate companies in various places have therefore begun to expand to all parts of the country, which has directly led to the rapid rise of land prices in various places. As prices rise, house prices also rise, rising steadily. When their Westlake Throne was launched, it reached a record price of 38,000 per square meter. This price and this project brought Lu Ligan and others the benefit that everyone recognized them as having the best quality housing in Hangzhou. In addition to the company, it is also the company with the most expensive real estate prices in Hangzhou, and it is also the most recognized company. Everyone generally believes that they are expensive for a reason. Zhejiang Jinxiu has become the leader in real estate prices in Hangzhou, so much so that if they buy land again, as long as they buy a piece of land, the surrounding housing prices have already risen before they move. It started to rise because everyone believed that their entry would definitely drive up the housing prices in this area and also improve the quality of the area. Lu Ligan and Tan Shahen felt that the pressure was increasing. Every time they participated in a land auction, the pressure would increase. Sitting there, looking at the enthusiastic crowd around them, Tan Shahen felt that she could hear them chattering. The sound of running. When everyone is running, you can't stop if you want to stop. You will still be carried by the crowd and run forward, otherwise you will fall, and others will follow you without hesitation. Step on it. Whether it's Lu Ligan or Tan Shahen, they both feel that they can't stop. Lu Ligan pledged another 30% of the company's equity and entrusted Mr. Chiao's company to issue 2.5 billion yuan in corporate bonds. Thank you book friend 201904121548362008 for your monthly ticket. Thanks for all the reading and votes. Have a good evening everyone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Xiniang. Chapter 1059. Zhang Chen matched Zhao's Hailong and his Zhao Mei wedding dress with the Toyota Overlord, because foreign customers often came to negotiate business and inspect goods, and Su Qiaoxin and the others needed to be picked up and dropped off at Shanghai Hongqiao Airport. Su Qiaoxin called Zhang Chen and told him, "Mr. Zhang, can you accompany me to pick me up at Shanghai Airport tomorrow?" "What?" Zhang Chen asked a little strangely. Su Qiaoxin had never asked Zhang Chen to do this kind of thing before. At most, it was only some more important customers. When Su Qiaoxin brought them to the design center, he would sit in Zhang Chen's office and meet. Occasionally, Zhang Chen would have a meal with them, but that was all. "I don't know either. The American customer I contacted was very annoying. He asked questions and didn't place an order. This time he said that he wanted to come to our factory from the United States to have a look. He also said that there is a very important person in their company. People want to come with him, and they always say that they are here on a special trip and must ask our boss to pick them up at the Shanghai airport, Su Qiaxin said in a croaky voice. What company is so awesome? Zhang Chen asked. Target, Su Qiaxin said. What? T-A-R-G-E-T, Target. I checked and it seems that this company is quite big, Su Qiaxin said. Okay, then go pick it up, Zhang Chen said. Really, Mr. Zhang, Su Qiaxin exclaimed happily, but they haven't placed an order. It doesn't matter whether we have placed an order or not, Zhang Chen said with a smile. People come all the way from the United States, so we just go to Shanghai. What a big deal. Okay, thank you, Mr. Zhang. By the way, Qiaxin, tell me the name of the company, and I'll check it out online. Su Qiaxin agreed, and she recited the company's name letter by letter, and Zhang Chen wrote it down on a sticky note. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Chen entered these letters into the Yahoo search box and searched. A lot of web pages came out, but they were all in English and none in Chinese. But there were never so many English web pages. It can be seen from the search results that this company must be quite big. Zhang Chen opened a page and saw their company's logo. Zhang Chen almost laughed. It was too ugly. It was like an archery target, with a white background, a red dot in the middle, a red circle outside, and below. With a row of English target, Zhang Chen shook his head and thought to himself, just based on this logo, this company is not very good. Zhang Chen thought for a while, then called Lin Shuwen and asked her, there is a company, do you know what it does? Where's the company, brother? Lin Shuwen asked. The American ones are called Target, T-A-R-G-E-T. I don't know if I read them correctly, Zhang Chen said. Target. What's wrong, bro? Qiao Xian told me that I would go to Shanghai to pick up people from their company tomorrow. They also said that their salesman said that I must go. He said that someone important was coming. Great. Brother, this is great. I'll be right over, just wait for me, Lin Shuwen said and hung up the phone. Zhang Chen was stunned for a moment. This reaction was too big, but after thinking for a while, he still called Zhao Zhailong and Su Qiaxin and asked them to come over. He was confused and didn't know what was going on, so he asked Lin Shuwen to directly ask Su Qiaxin and the others. Zhang Chen stood in front of the window. After a while, he saw Lin Shuwen's red Ferrari arriving. Zhang Chen felt strange why many women like red Ferraris. The Huang Meli who used to live in Haikan was Shen to the same goes for Hanjian. The first car Lin Shuwen bought in mainland China was also a red Ferrari. But it seems that Xiao Zhao doesn't like it. When changing cars, Zhang Chen also thought about buying Xiao Zhao a Ferrari. Xiao Zhao shouted, I'm nervous. I originally thought Xiaoli was too small. If I change it to a bigger car, then the Ferrari is even smaller, with only 2 seats. When you go out to the south or north, there is not enough room to sit. Finally, I bought a BMW. Lu Ligan said that BMW is very safe. When it came to choosing a color, Xiao Zhao chose black. The reason is that you can drive it when you want to, my dear. Lin Shuwen walked to the door, stood there, put her head in first to take a look, then turned to look left and right, and asked, where is Qiaxin, brother? Not here yet, on the way, Zhang Chen said. Lin Shuwen walked in, sat down on the sofa, pointed at the water dispenser and said, I'm thirsty, brother, I want to drink water. Zhang Chen took the cup, and as soon as his finger touched the red button, Lin Shuwen shouted, no, no hot, I want cold. Zhang Chen quickly pressed the green button and poured a glass of cold water for Lin Shuwen. Lin Shuwen giggled, thank you, brother. Zhang Chen sat down on the sofa on the side. He asked Lin Shuwen, "What is the background of this company?" Lin Shuwen put down the cup and said to Zhang Chen, "It's very, very important. Brother Lu must also know which factory in Taiwan. If it can be sold into Target, the boss will be very happy and will come to us every day nightclub, invite friends to play." So powerful, Zhang Chen was surprised. It seemed that he underestimated this company. "Yes, that's why I'm coming over. I must help my brother to place this order. If this company places it, it will definitely be a long-term order. It will be shipped every month. Once it is released, it will last for several years. The kind that won't change factories easily." Lin Shuwen said, "In the United States, the largest supermarket is Walmart, and they are the second largest. But our factories in Taiwan like to go to Target, not Walmart." "Why?" Zhang Chen was surprised. "The biggest one doesn't want to get in, but he likes the second biggest one." "It's different," Brother Lin Shuwen said. "Walmart is big, but the items in it are sold very cheaply. Then your factory should give it cheaper. Target is in the United States. It is famous for its quality, its shopping environment is much better than Walmart, and the prices are average. In other words, more poor people go to Walmart, while more white-collar and middle-class people go to Target." Zhang Chen nodded and understood. "In other words, its purchase volume is also large, but the price will not be that low. Of course, the factory welcomes it. Also, brother, this Target, what they buy must be unique, that is, this dress and this cup. If they place an order for you, you are not allowed to sell this style to anyone else." Lin Shuwen blinked and shouted, "I know, brother, I know." "What do you know?" Zhang Chen asked. "I know why they came to you. They must have been on your website and saw that you have so many designers. They saw that I am still the boss. You designed the clothes and went to Cannes. There are also He Hongmei and Ji Ling, they are all amazing, they must have decided to come to China after seeing this." "Why?" Zhang Chen was surprised and thought, "Is the designer so important?" "Yes, that's right, that's what they are like. Brother, what they like most is to cooperate with companies that have design capabilities. This way they can keep their products unique. They will even buy out the designs of many world-renowned designers." Zhang Chen nodded. He was curious. "Awen, how do you know so much? You are not specialized in import and export." "I've seen a lot, brother. You know that I used to be a waiter at Brother Liu's place. Taiwan's factories all make money by doing OEM work for Americans. Many American customers come to Taiwan, and they bring them to our nightclub. Play. There are some factory owners who don't speak English themselves, so they pay more to those who can speak English. I went to a cram school and worked hard to learn English. If I learned it, I could make more money. Once I learned it, many bosses would not only call me to come to our nightclub, but also call me to accompany them during the day, to work as a translator, and to pick up people at the airport. Call me, and I often accompany them to the United States. That makes a lot of money. These American customers come to Taiwan to inspect goods, place orders, and inspect factories. I accompany them. The more I watch on the side, the more I understand everything." Zhang Chen nodded, understood, and said, "You really work hard, Awen. What should I do? If I don't work hard myself, no one will help me. I don't want to rely on others anymore." Lin Shuwen said, her eyes dimmed for a moment. Zhang Chen knew that at that time, her brother was already dead, and she was already a person, a girl. If she didn't want to rely on men for food, she would live harder and pay more than men. More than men. Zhao's Hailong and Su Qiaxin came in, and they sat down. Lin Shuwen asked Su Qiaxin, and Su Qiaxin told Lin Shuwen all about her contact with customers. Lin Shuwen also told them what she knew about Target. Su Qiaxin said, "No wonder, I said that when we usually chat online with Yi Meyer, He always asks about the boss and sister Hungmei. Asking here and there, but I'm really annoyed that I won't place an order. So that's it? Lin Shuwen smiled and said, fortunately you are not annoyed to death, otherwise we would not be able to receive this order. They will not place the order this time. Ah, Su Kioxin was surprised. If you haven't placed an order yet, then why are they here? Are they here to travel? It's not that easy, Lin Shuwen said. When dealing with such customers, you must be patient. There will be a lot of things ahead, but once you get started, it will be very simple. You don't have to worry about orders for several years. I have dealt with their company, and according to their process, the very important person coming tomorrow is indeed very important. He can decide whether this factory can become their supplier. Pay attention, they are not looking at one person. 2 orders, but it depends on your entire factory. If your entire factory meets their conditions, they will recognize you as their supplier. Then you place the order, Su Kioxin asked. Lin Shuwen shook her head. Not yet, Su Kioxin shouted. Not yet. They will inspect the factory next. When they leave, they will leave you with a list. There is a lot on the list, including not only the number of equipment, number of workers, and production capacity of your factory, but also how the workers' accommodation is. What is your salary and income, how are you eating, how many rest days are arranged in a month, etc., a lot of content. I will also set a time with you. At this time, their people will come to inspect the factory. The factory inspection is not done by them, but by a third party. A specialized certification agency will inspect every corner of the factory. I will visit the workers' dormitories, canteens, and bathrooms, and I will also communicate with your managers, financial personnel, and workers. So troublesome, Zhao's Hailong shouted, why don't you get killed by them? Yes, it is very troublesome, Lin Shuwen nodded, but after the factory inspection is over, if it passes, their orders will continue to come. I promise, Director Zhao, Kioxin, all your customers' orders will be increased now up, it's not as big as theirs. Thank you to readers 1297873838407110656, Dal Tin Soldier, and reading books every day for your rewards. Thank you Huaxin Yongxiao for your monthly ticket. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1060. Awen, look, what should we do now? Zhang Chen asked. Call Director Zhao to come over, Awen said. What's the matter, Miss Lin? Zhao's Hailong asked. I'm sorry, Lin Shuwen said, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the other factory director Zhao. The other 3 people all laughed, and Lin Shuwen said to them. The people from their company will pay close attention to the production capacity of the factory when they come here, and they will worry about suppliers not being able to supply goods. Therefore, we have to take them to see the 2 factories and tell them that in terms of production, our internal it can be adjusted, so that they can rest assured that both our factories must prepare. Zhang Chen understood and immediately called Zhao Zhigang and asked him to come over immediately. After Zhao Zhigang arrived, Lin Shuwen and Su Kioxin said, Thank you, Kioxin, help me call Ji Ling. Su Kioxin walked out, and Lin Shuwen stood up and walked out. After a while, when she came back, Xiao Zhao followed her. Lin Shuwen said to everyone, I know your 3 places are very clean, but after all the hard work, I still have to ask you to clean up again. This customer is really important. When they come, they will look at it very carefully. The design center and there is no need to do anything here in the financial center. There are 2 factories. In the workshop, in the first one, everyone's things must be arranged neatly. Although the ground is very clean, we don't want guests to see that there are semi-finished products piled directly on the ground. Then what should we do? The wedding dress is so big. If the sewing machine passes by, won't the front of it be on the ground? Zhao Hailong asked. You can put a basket, Director Zhao. It's a big plastic basket. The car drives over and lets the materials fall into the plastic basket, Lin Shuwen said. Just like Awen said, if you don't have a basket, go buy it right away in the afternoon, Zhang Chen said. Secondly, of course, everyone has to wear work clothes. Girls also have to wear work hats, especially those with long hair. They have to tuck their hair into the hat. Americans are very stupid. They believe that long hair will cause curls. There is a danger in the sewing machine belt. It's useless if you tell him, he doesn't know it. He just thinks about it and thinks it is possible. Lin Shuwen said, and everyone laughed. Lin Shuwen said, the factory uses the kind of fabric used for work clothes, and makes a hat by yourself. Put it on your head like a shower cap, and just put all your hair in it. Zhao Zhigang agreed, this is simple and can be done in one go. Also, they will definitely take a look at the workers' dormitories and make sure they are tidy, Lin Shuwen said. Trouble is, those men's dormitories are like pig nests, very smelly, Su Qiaxin said. Zhao Hailong glanced at her and said, do you often go to the men's dormitory? The women's dormitory is dirty, okay. The ropes in the room are pulled randomly, things are hung randomly, and you are stingy. If you don't take it out, I won't take it out. It's all piled up there. Su Qiaxin replied to Zhao Hailong, you often go to the girls' dormitory, do you know this? This is not possible, Lin Shuwen said, the dormitories and canteens must be very tidy, and the bathrooms must be very clean. Americans all use flush toilets. They will be very uncomfortable seeing us squatting in pits, especially yes, the squatting pit cannot be the yellow one. Then we're going to die, Zhao Zhigang said, we have to paint all the squatting pits white, even the dormitories. That's right, that's what it's like. Thank you for your hard work, Director Zhao, Lin Shuwen said. Zhang Chen thought for a while, and he told Zhao Zhigang and Zhao Hailong that they would make arrangements when they got back. Even if they stopped doing the work first, they would also take care of the hygiene first. In the evening, I would come over to check. Zhao Zhigang, Zhao Hailong said yes. The next time they come to inspect the factory, they will be stricter, so everyone has to do it first. If we don't do enough, they will point it out for us to improve. They also hope that we can pass the factory inspection in one go, and we can do it right away. Production, but if they fail the factory inspection, they will not dare to purchase the goods, Lin Shuwen said. Why do Americans have so much money? If you want to buy a wedding dress, you only need to worry about the quality and style of the wedding dress, and you have to worry about other things, Zhao Zhigang scolded. No, they must. When inspecting the factory, most of it is about human rights. For example, what is the level of employee remuneration in the local area, whether there is compulsory overtime, whether there are child labor, etc. Why did they ask for a second inspection? Three-party certification agencies come to certify, also to reduce their own pressure. Walmart, for example, is accused by some human rights organizations and news media every year, saying that the products they sell are all products produced in sweatshops. Therefore, with third-party certification, they are actually reducing pressure on themselves. Then what will happen if we fail the factory inspection? Xiao Zhao asked. The factory will be inspected for the second and third time. I have encountered factories that passed the inspection 5 times before they passed the inspection, Lin Shuwen said. So strict, Xiao Zhao said. Tomorrow will be fine. Tomorrow is just for them to come and see for themselves. The actual factory inspection will be strict. It depends on which company comes to inspect. Each company's standards are different, but generally there will be production process audits, social responsibility audits, and environmental management audits. System audits and supplier audits are very troublesome. If we fail the second re-inspection, we usually have to pay for it ourselves. It's very expensive. It costs more than $800 at a time. The cost is to come from Hong Kong. Lin Shuwen said, looking at Zhao Hailong and Zhao Zhigang, and told them, don't be afraid. There are so many factories with worse conditions than us in all aspects, but they can survive. Why can't we? It's definitely possible. This kind of thing should be looked at. Whether we pay attention to it or not, and if we do it seriously, we will definitely be able to do it well. But when doing foreign trade, you either only do loose orders, small orders. If you want to do big orders, you will definitely need factory inspectors. After one inspection, you will have experience. Come on, everyone, Lin Shuwen said. Zhang Chen, Zhao Zhigang, and Zhao Hailong said, this is the path we must take, and we must take it well. Awen is right, other factories that are worse than us can pass, why can't we pass? Especially for Zhao Hailong, it is impossible to make a wedding dress without making a foreign trade order. If you want to make a foreign trade order, you must make a big order. If you make a big order, you cannot escape the factory inspection. My brother is right. Director Zhao has worked hard and I am optimistic about you, Lin Shuwen said. Zhao Hailong's face turned red and he said, okay, I'll work hard. Zhao Hailong, Zhao Zhigang, and the others have left, and there are still 3 people left in the office, Zhang Chen, Xiao Zhao, and Lin Shuwen. Lin Shuwen and Zhang Chen said, brother, I will accompany you tomorrow. Zhang Chen smiled and said, just pick someone up, Su Kioxin, and I will just go there. No, brother, I didn't tell factory director Zhao Kioxin and the others before, for fear of damaging their confidence. In fact, after they come to see this kind of customers, they know in their minds whether our factory can pass the WCA inspection. WCA, the factory inspection, requires a score of 85 or above to pass the green test. For ordinary factories, it is difficult to pass in one go. But many customers, after seeing it, feel that the basic conditions of our factory are good, and can reach about 70%. They will also place orders. They will produce and inspect the factory while placing orders. If they don't work, they will make corrections, and make changes again and again. As long as our products are good and customers will not cancel their orders. I have a friend who has been making changes and shipping for several years. As Lin Shuwen said this, Zhang Chen laughed and cursed, isn't this becoming formalism? Lin Shuwen smiled and said, oh, you think Americans are not human, and they are also very cunning. There is a difference between not doing this and doing it. If someone wants to accuse them, they will say, our factories are all according to WCA standards. They will not tell others when conducting factory inspections, even if the factory has never passed the inspection. Zhang Chen and Xiao Zhao both laughed, and Xiao Zhao said, there is still something like this. By the way, Xiao Zhao, do our workers have work-related injury insurance? Lin Shuwen asked. Some of them are bought, and some are not. For example, those with high liquidity, such as back-end packaging and handymen, are not bought. Among workers, they are bought, such as cutting beds. The workers of Laokuning garment factory, their insurance covers work-related injuries. It's safe, Xiao Zhao said. Okay, just prepare the salary schedules and attendance sheets for these people. If they want to see it tomorrow, just show it to them. We can make up for the rest later. Lin Shuwen said. Xiao Zhao nodded and said yes. By the way, are there any employees who have resigned and still bought it? Lin Shuwen asked. Yes, Lao Wan and the rest of the maintenance team all bought work-related injury insurance. Didn't they all go to the poll? Okay, prepare the ones for these people, and show them to them when the time comes. Take a look. Those of us who have resigned have already bought them, let alone those who are still here. As Lin Shuwen said, Zhang Chen laughed again. Lin Shuwen looked at him and asked, "Why are you laughing?" "Why, this is like playing a game," Zhang Chen said. Lin Shuwen also laughed, "It's just a game, but the rules of this game are set by others. If we want to get their orders, we can only play according to the rules of the game set by them." Zhang Chen and Xiao Zhao nodded, feeling that what Lin Shuwen said made sense. No, Lin Shuwen lowered her head and thought for a while before shouting. "What's not working?" Xiao Zhao asked. "This time, we must go to other places to deepen their impression. Since the person they are coming tomorrow is very important, he should have the right to place an order. We must find a way to get him to place an order and inspect it while producing factory. In this way, whether it is Director Zhao or the workers at the factory, they will be more serious. If they know that it is this big customer requesting a factory inspection, will they be even more oily?" Zhang Chen said that was for sure. "Our production capacity is already large enough. We need to let them know that we can be even bigger. Since it is target, they value production capacity very much," Lin Shuwen said. "Our fourth workshop is already buying equipment. In this way, I will ask the equipment sellers to send all the equipment they already have there tomorrow and start assembly. This way, when they arrive, they can see that we are preparing to expand production." Lin Shuwen shouted, "Okay, that's okay. By the way, we still have open space in the factory. Would you like me to draw a rendering to show that it is our second factory building?" Zhang Chen asked. "If you want it, post it in Director Zhao's office after you draw it." "I will tell them then," Lin Shuwen said, "and brother, I will pick them up at the airport tomorrow. You cooperate with me, and we'd better bring them to our Shanghai store first to give them a good first impression." Zhang Chen said yes, and Xiao Zhao said, "Then I'll ask Xiaomi to prepare it too. Thank you for the tip from the third one from top to bottom, 131 on the shore. Thank you Huaxin Yongxiao for your monthly ticket. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone."